All right, here we go. You have pressed play on the Gill Connections podcast. I'm just always so humbled. It really is amazing. I'm kind of a stats nerd, so I look at the stats every day, and it is humbling. The thousands of people every day that choose to listen to an episode here on the Gill podcast. So grateful for you. If this is your first time listening, I'm your host here, Mike Cunningham. I serve you as our National Business Development Manager here at Gill, overseeing the track and field side of our company. And you probably know me better as the podcast guy or even the Twitter guy, because that's where, if I'm not on the podcast, I'm probably over on Twitter causing a ruckus over there. So thanks again for being here. I'm excited. I'm like the worst podcaster in the world. I think I'm supposed to remind you to rate, review, all that kind of stuff. So if you have a second, just 5-star or 4-star or whatever, or 1-star. I don't know. What are you doing here if it's a 1-star? But I'm grateful that you are here, even if you are a 1-star hater. Is that what I would call it? But I know who's not a hater, and that's today's guest. I'm pumped for this because it's been a while, meaning he has been on the list for a long time. His career and where he's at today is maybe a little different than we've had as a guest here. And I'm always excited to bring you new and different views of our profession of coaching track and field. So help me welcome from the great state of Arizona, the wise, the wonderful Mr. Devin Green. Devin, how are you, my friend?
Doing great, Mike. Happy to finally get to talk to you on the podcast, and excited to have some fun, as you said, and tell the story.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, patience. If you're a coach and you don't have patience, I'm not sure you're a coach for very long. You probably go to some other profession. I'm not what profession you could have if you don't have patience, but
Right.
everybody who reaches out about being on the podcast, you get on a list. It's absolutely true. That list happens to be this long. Fortunately, honestly, and I only do 52 of these a year. That's kind of the thing. That's actually why I started the Gill 1918 project, which we run on Tuesdays through Sunday. Much shorter form, 10 to 30 minutes, self-recorded podcast, kind of the TED Talks of track and field
Mhm.
podcast. But that was an opportunity to get more coaches on to the podcast to help them
Right.
explore and learn their voice. So I'm pumped for that. Devin, so first of all, you're in Arizona.
Mhm.
I'm looking out the window and it's like 10 degrees. What are you dealing with? Is it actually cold where you are, or are you okay there?
I mean, it's not too cold. It's been in the 80s, which is nice
Shut
for
up. Are
us.
you serious?
It was it was 80 degrees yesterday. It's 80 degrees today.
Bro.
Luckily I'm an outside worker, so I get to enjoy the fresh air. But yeah, it's been pretty chilly for us in the 110s in the summers and all that stuff. So
Did it get cold? Because like I was talking to a friend in Texas, just south of Dallas, and I was like, "So what's the weather?" I was like, "Did it get
mhm.
cold?" And I was thinking like, "Oh, it got 20, which that's legit cold in Dallas." And he said, "Yeah, I woke up and it was 7." And I was like, "Oh, like that's cold no matter like even us Northerners." Now I'm not Northern now, I guess.
Yeah.
That's cold. Did it ever
Mhm.
get like we had a kind of a nationwide
Uh
cold snap? Did
in
you get?
the I'm about 15 minutes from ASU. It
Hmm,
doesn't get too cold where we are in the city, but if you go outside to some of the surrounding cities like South Chandler,
right.
Queen Creek, not too, but if you go 15, 20 minutes away where it's closer to the desert, it gets pretty cold in the 40s and the 30s at times. But
To
here in the actual city, it's been pretty warm. I'll say that.
it's gonna be a high of like 29 today, and honestly, 29's like, ooh, it feels nice. Like this isn't bad. Yeah,
You know, I've
40s,
lived in Arizona
dude.
for I've lived in Arizona for 20 years now. I don't know how many 29-degree days I've seen.
I am insanely jealous, just so you're aware. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Although I've been in Arizona during the summers and late summers where it is 110 as well, and ooh,
Right, right,
although I would rather complain about that than
right,
0 degrees. You know what I'm saying? So
right. Yeah.
yeah, I'm still jealous. Well, Devin, let's hop in our Wayback Machine here and let's learn more about you. Assuming you were an athlete, and we certainly know what assuming does, and we've certainly had amazing coaches on the podcast who were not athletes, but maybe assuming you were an athlete, where in the world does track and field start for you?
So for me, my family has a track and field background. My grandfather ran at University of Mount Union in Ohio.
Oh yeah.
So some years and years and years ago. So I don't know if my interest from it came from that or just being the fastest kid on the playground as everyone once was. But I ran track in high school. I only ran track in high school to spend more time with my girlfriend,
Hmm.
as most boys want to do in high school. And so I did that. And then as a sophomore. Then it turned out to work out okay. I ended up running for when we were in high school, I started running. I got roped into the 4x4 from a kid who got injured pole vaulting, and that was kind of the rest of my track career. And ran that all through high school. Went on to run at Mesa Community College for Steve Jacobs, who was there for 100 years, and he, that kind of changed everything. And if I had never ran track in high school, I can tell you right now, my life would not be what it is right now. So
tell me, in high school, and you moved to community college already, as far as Mesa. So did you grow up in Arizona?
I was born in Connecticut, lived in Ohio for some time. But I've been in Arizona since I was in 8th grade. So what's that, 13, 14 years old?
Yeah. Wow. Okay.
So
Been here what attracted you besides your girlfriend? And what's interesting is that is not an uncommon reason, to be around girls, or, I have a story in high school where we had 2 foreign languages. You could take Spanish or you could take French. And I noticed French class was 100% girls. And I was like, well, I'm taking French. Like my kids now take foreign languages. Like, why did you pick French, Dad? And I'm like, well, I'm not going to lie to you. I was the only dude in the class, and that was pretty cool. Like, I got some prom dates for that. It was a lot of fun. So I hear that a lot with our track and field.
Yeah, when we used to recruit kids on campus, our 2 things were, do you like missing school, and do you like
yes, check.
And do you like girls, and for the boys, the boys, and for the girls is, do you like boys? You're gonna meet friends on track teams you're gonna have for the rest of your lives.
That's right. That is exactly right.
So that was a huge pitch for us.
Besides that, because it sounds like you're fairly athletic. Did you play basketball, football, tennis, any other sports?
I played basketball since that was the first sport I ever played. I played baseball growing up. Played a little bit of football growing up, not a ton, not enough to say that I was a football player, but I did. I played sports growing up. It's when you look back on like your upbringing and what you're doing now and your new jobs and all these other things, is how well can you work with others? And you see and meet a lot of kids now who have never really been part of team sports, and and that dynamic of, putting 5 individuals on a court, 11 individuals on a field to accomplish a common goal. And you see a lot of kids that never went through those kinds of things. And I can't express the importance enough of being a part of youth sports and all that stuff. So I did play sports growing up, and which is so different from track and field and cross country, where it's really just you versus 9 other people in a race, or you versus 100 other people in a cross country race. It's just you versus you at a lot of times, and you versus the field. And even though there are team aspects to both of those, it is really different, competing in that sense for the team part of those sports, because you don't see it directly all the time. So the team aspect of sports, I can't express it enough, and how important it was, growing up and all that stuff.
Absolutely. So I love your sentence, because it puts together a lot of truths. A kid got hurt pole vaulting, and so I got roped into the 4x4. Those are 2 really truths about our sport.
Oh, absolutely.
And 4x4. What were you before that 4x4? Were you more of like a short sprinter 1-2, or are you more of an 8-16?
I ran the 400. That was my main event. I was not a part of the varsity 4x4 when we got to that meet.
Right.
I don't know if it's this way in other states, but in Arizona, meets are just the longest meets of all time.
Oh, bro, that's everywhere. Yeah. That's my number one complaint about our sport. Absolutely.
They're just the longest meets of all time. We're showing up places at 7 a.m. and running 4x4s at 9 p.m. And I ran my race at, I couldn't even tell you what time. We'll just say mid-afternoon. And then, someone comes up to me and, hey, so-and-so got hurt. We need you to run the 4x4. And that's kind of how it started. and how it ended, because my last race ever was a 4x4 as well. So,
Yeah.
so it's
What
kind of
did
crazy how that happens.
what did you think when we've actually heard it's not an uncommon story that heroes are born when someone gets hurt or someone is needed for a 4x4. You know, that 100-meter sprinter that
Yeah.
swore they would never
Yeah.
run the 400 and they split a 49 or whatever.
Yeah.
The 800-meter gal who thinks, she's a distance person has to fill in a 4x4 and runs, a 53, and she's like, "Oh my
Right.
God, maybe this is what I really am." What did you think? Because I can almost like picture this. You've run your 400, you did your job. That's what I am, a 400-meter guy. I went and did my thing, and now I've got 5 more hours. So I'm gonna go talk to my girlfriend and hang out with my boys. And when the meet's over,
Exactly.
I'll cheer
Yeah.
for my 4x4 team. But when the meet's over, we're gone. And then all of a sudden, it's like, "Hey, Devin, spike it up. We need you in the
Yeah.
4x4." What did I mean? That had to be a little scary.
No, it definitely was. If I can, I remember that it wasn't, that was my first track meet ever. And, they're, "Hey, we need you." And so got hurt. And I'm like, "Wait, what? Like, what's going on?" And,
Like, how hurt is he? Like, he can still go, right?
are you sure you need me to do this? And, and it's so funny too, because I mean, you've coached and I've coached, and that look on that kid's face that's not supposed to be running that race, and all of the excuses they make to try to get out of it. And my mom's on their way to pick me up, and I just ate a hot dog, or
I think I'm
something.
injured too.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm the right guy for that. So I'm sure
Right.
it was a little bit of excitement, a little bit of, it's older kids that are coming to get you usually,
Yeah.
and a
But
little
it
bit of,
it worked out.
yeah.
You showed back up the next day for practice. You didn't like, "Oh man,
Yeah,
I'm toast. Get out of here."
there's nothing like a high school 4x4 under the
Agreed.
lights with all your friends, and
I
you
agree.
know the everyone in the stands watching and cheering, and
Yeah. So
it's
this was your
it
first
is
four
a
by
good
four
time.
ever?
Ever.
What
Yeah,
leg what
ever.
leg did you run?
Oh man, I couldn't even tell you.
What
I
I'm
know
really
I was first. I ran anchor most of my 4x4
what,
career, so
what what I'm getting at for that
probably
first one, I'm wondering because you probably hadn't practiced handoffs, and I understand the 4x4 skill level handoff is lower than say like the 4x1, but you still
right.
need to know, hey, Devin, don't
Yeah,
cross this line until you get the baton, and
right,
make sure you're
right,
inside this line. Like there had to be
right.
some kind of like how did you handle like just the logistics side of it?
Man, I wish I could remember now, because that's a
It's been a
great
while.
story. But I'd have to say I was either first or fourth. That'd be
Yeah,
my guess.
yeah.
I couldn't tell you, but I just remember the excitement of it, and
Yeah.
wow, I can't, once you do it the first time and it goes well, it's, wow, I can't wait to do this again, and
Mhm.
hopefully be on this relay for, for the rest of the season, or
Yeah.
the rest of your life at that point, I guess.
That's why I push back when I hear people say something that you said earlier about how it's an individual sport and there are some team aspects, but it's really individual. There's another great podcaster, does a lot of YouTube live shows, Texas Track Dad. I love Vance a lot. One of
Yes.
my
Yeah.
become one of my good friends, and he and I spar a lot about whether it's an individual sport or a team sport. And he's very
Uh-huh.
much on the individual side. I'm very much on the team side. And but what I love about the team side in the 4x4 and the relays in general, it's not uncommon that someone splits way faster, not just faster
Oh
because
yeah, for
but
sure.
way faster than they can run the open. And my contingency is it's like, oh yeah, when I've got Devon's in front of me and I'm about to, I got to get the stick to him, I don't want to let Devon down.
Yeah,
If I'm in
absolutely.
if I'm in the open 400 and I have a bad race, well, that sucks, but that's on me.
Yeah.
Because of the individual side, it's like, well, I can't complain to anybody. But man, if I have a bad split and Devin is behind, that sucks, man. And so I think it's
Yeah.
because we now run for what's across our chest and not our individual. I think it is a team sport, my friend. I really
Yeah,
do.
no, I definitely agree. I mean, we've all seen kids and had teammates that were never the best open runners, but you put a baton in their hand and they're, Mr. Reliable. So I know
Magic
exactly where you're
baton,
coming
baby.
from. Yeah.
Yeah. We should
Get
run.
magic powers
We
from that thing.
I wonder if there's a coach out there that practices with everybody holding a baton just because it's like, man, maybe this will give them some juice just for like we're gonna do a repeat 200s. Grab a baton. I don't care.
We
You ain't
used to
handing
do we
up.
used to do 200-meter relay at practice with batons, and
Yeah,
the
yeah,
kids enjoy running with them. So,
yeah, yeah.
anything to motivate kids to run faster.
Love it.
So
Love it.
I agree.
Well, spoiler alert, you end up becoming a track coach at some point, but while you're in high school, you're 16, 17, 18 years old. What was your relationship like with coaches?
It was good. I mean, we had a revolving door of sprint coaches. I think we had a different sprint coach every year, but
Hmm.
my senior year, we had a coach. Funny enough, his name's Michael Johnson. Not
Did
the Michael
did you
Johnson, but
know who Michael Johnson was though?
I did. I did know who he was, and then when I first met our coach, who was a track guy from Kansas State, he ran and coached. And then I forget how he ended up in Arizona, but he was a special ed teacher for us, and
Nice.
he was hired as the new track coach. And I remember he found out about me and a couple buddies who had class together. He came into our English class and introduced himself, and
Wow.
which was cool because he was on campus and none of our other coaches were.
Yeah.
So, he came, found us, and was like, "Hey, I'm your new sprint coach." And that kind of that was our senior year. So as that kind of happens, it's like, hey, like we've got a guy that clearly cares. He came to find us, and
Right. Oh, that's
this is a
interesting.
a great person to have right now to try
Yeah.
to accomplish the goal. And that was the best team that I'd been on in 3 years. We were state runners up as a team, state champions in the 4x4, and I think it was all because we had that relationship that started so early in that school year, that
Yeah.
carried through all the way through through the track season, and the relationship and the trust. And
Yeah.
he kept everything really light. So I think for us, we had great coaches, we had great relationships with them, and you spend so much time with your track coaches
Hmm.
in high school and college and professionally, but you spend so much time with them that if you don't get along with them, you're going to very quickly find out. And we had the same head coaches for my 3 years that we were there. We had different sprint coach, but every year felt like you become a track family, as people like to say.
Hmm.
But we had really good relationships or I had really good relationships with my coaches in high school. I got to MCC eventually. Coach Jacobs is still talk to him today.
Hmm.
Whenever I have decisions that are coming up, I love to hear from him. And
Oh,
he's been like a father to me. I always tell
that's
him that if
cool.
I ever get married one day, I'm going to invite him to my bachelor party and be in my wedding. But
Love it.
the relationship part of it, it's always super important, and
Yeah.
something that you don't think about in the moment, especially as a 16, 17-year-old kid.
Right.
But
Right.
looking
That's right.
back, I mean, I still see, my old coach, Mike Johnson, he's still coaching, and I still run into him pretty
Wow.
regularly, a few times a year.
Dude.
But I'd still talk to him. So my head coaches are still coaching now. One's a pole vault coach at one school, one's a javelin coach at another school. Our former girls coach is an athletic director somewhere who I still talk to regularly, and
Nice.
her son is still a very good friend of mine. So
Hmm.
yeah, it's I would say I had pretty good relationships with those people, through that time.
What a great example about when Michael Johnson, the non-controversial in the news, Michael Johnson, uh,
The Michael
at,
Johnson that pays his debts, that guy.
stop. It's true, but stop. Uh, we don't slander on here, and right now that seems to be what the truth is. So we're not slandering here. Uh, but I love that he went and pursued you guys just an introduction. He could have easily waited until the first preseason meeting for the team or the first practice. He went to just to introduce himself to you, and what an impact that made on you. That reminds me of another. He needs to get his podcast back up and going. But another great coach who's been on the podcast here, Ryan Banta from Missouri, and I may get some specifics here, but he is very intentional. He writes like essentially a recruiting letter, if you will, to eighth graders as they're finishing up their eighth grade season because they're going to be freshmen for
Yeah,
him on his season.
right.
And he even has so much like for his girls, they have like a rose ceremony. So each ninth grader gets paired up with I don't want to say senior, maybe older, maybe a
Yeah,
junior or senior
right.
leader, and like they give them a rose, and that becomes their mentor and things like that. And and it's remember him talking about how impactful, like he gets a lot of eighth graders that continue on
Yeah.
because of this. I just think about that intentionality of a coach like
We
that. That's really cool.
Yeah, we had So we had a feeder school, but in Arizona, you can go to any high school you want.
Hmm.
So
Is that right?
from our feeder school, there's a high school closer to our feeder school than they were to Higley High School. And there's a lot of different charter schools and smaller schools, and there's some religious factors as to where people determine where they're
Sure.
going, which is totally fine. But we would bring our coaching staff and our team to junior high practice for cross country and track and field.
Yeah.
And we're always like, this stuff never works. Like, these kids are going to go wherever they want to go, blah, blah, blah. And I remember one year we had a younger kid, and he came up to me at practice one day, or once we were finishing in the weight room or something. And he was, telling me, I was just kind of asking him about, I was like, oh, how are you liking it so far? He was like, he's like, I remember you guys bringing however many kids we brought and talking to us at our practice, and, showing your face and all that stuff. And that was really important as to why, I'm
Absolutely.
here running right now. And it's like, when you do those things in the moment, you don't really think, hey, this is going to sway
Right.
this kid or this athlete one way or the other. But, it ends up working out in your favor. And then you look back at, your running career and how many times that happened to you and how impactful that was. And
Yeah.
it's funny that you don't really think about that in the moment, but
Right.
once it actually happens, it changes a lot. And it,
Yeah.
showing that face and having that recognizable,
Yeah. 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 Yeah.
face for the kid, it means everything.
Yeah, I agree. That's awesome. I love that story.
Yeah.
Okay, you're a senior. You're thinking about college. You're thinking about what am I going to become when I grow up. So we know you go to Mesa Community College, but I'm interested as you're transitioning from senior year to your freshman fall semester. Is coaching in your mind at all, or are you thinking about becoming a firefighter, a doctor, a business owner? What are
I
you thinking?
I think everyone it's so fascinating. I don't know that it's like this in every sport, but I feel like in track and field specifically, every kid who has ever ran track ever and enjoyed it, even just a little bit, at some point everyone tells their coach, like, I'm going to come back and help coaching. And
Hmm.
and in the moment you're like, this is so fun. Like, I want to come back and help. And I can't tell you how many times I heard it. And it's funny as you start going on and you get to a point where you are coaching, and it is 10, 15 years down the road, you do get former athletes coming back to you like, hey, like, I've finished with school. I'm doing
Hmm.
this. I'm teaching. I'm doing this. I'd love to get into coaching. But I remember when I was in high school as a senior, I told Coach Clark, I said, hey, I want to come back and help coach someday. I don't know when that's going to be. But I'd love to do it. And he was like,
But you weren't thinking like because I'm gonna become a track coach. You
oh,
were like,
oh
oh, I just want
God,
to help
no.
out. So what were you
Yeah,
thinking?
no.
Like, what were you going to college for? What did you think you wanted to become?
I'll be honest with you, I was lost. I had no
Yeah,
clue.
that's fair. Yeah.
As an 18-year-old, I don't know that
Hmm.
many.
Hmm.
I had no idea. I remember my girlfriend was headed to Arizona State.
Hmm.
I remember we were at the state meet. I had a former teammate who was a freshman at Mesa Community College, and he said, hey, where are you going to school next year? I said, I have no idea. He said, you're coming here. I said, okay. He
Wow.
said, I'm getting you in contact with Coach Jacobs. And he did. So it was kind of funny. We were at the state final meet. I'll never forget this, but we're at the state final. We're at state finals. And, I, Kyle Byrne comes up to me and tells me, hey, what are you doing? We have that whole conversation. He's like, you're coming here. I think I heard that was on a Saturday. We get back to school on Monday. I'm pretty sure I heard from Coach Jacobs shortly after that. And
Yeah.
then, we graduated on a Wednesday. I visited the school on a Thursday, signed the letter of intent on that day. And that was the rest is kind of history, as they say.
Yeah, I've said this a million times. I'll say it a million times. And one, it still boggles me that we make 18-year-olds pick a major that is going to affect the rest of their life. Oh, and we charge
Right.
them a whole crap ton of money for it. Because you're right. When you're
Right.
18, it's
I have no
probably,
clue.
this is episode 350 something. It is probably close to 50-50, maybe 60-40 on the 18-year-old kid going, I had
Yeah.
no clue going into
Right.
college. I had no
Oh,
idea.
no.
Or they thought they did. Like, oh, yeah,
Yeah.
I was going to become a nurse because whatever reason. And then, boom, I went into phys ed and I became a high school teacher and coach track. Or,
Yeah.
after my freshman year, I realized, oh, I'm not a nurse, and so I changed to architecture and became a college track. I mean, there's so many avenues, but it is not, certainly it's not the majority of an 18-year-old who knows exactly
Right.
what they want to become and go out and actually do it, because
Right.
you're 18, for
Yeah.
crying out loud. You have no idea about the world. Your brain
Right.
is still developing for another 7-ish years. That is not uncommon, my friend. I
Yeah.
actually kind of like that a little bit more versus the guy or gal who thinks they know exactly what they want and then they get disappointed when they get into it. It's like, oh crap, I just spent 5 years in college, $100,000, and I don't like bookkeeping. Why did I go become an accountant? I
Right.
actually like the outside. I should have been an environmental engineer or something. It's like,
Yeah.
yeah, well, you ain't doing that now because you too broke. You got 100,000 in
Yeah.
loans and da da da.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I have a son who's in his freshman year of high school, and very big into like he's ranked in the state for bass fishing and all that kind of stuff. So he's a big environmental guy. He loves working
Yeah.
outside. And I'm like, if he tells me after a senior year, Dad, I just want to take a year and go work in the forest preserve or go do that, and then I'll decide on college. I think I'd be more proud of that than I'm going to
Yeah.
go to University of Illinois or wherever. And I think I'd
Yeah.
be more
Hey,
proud
go
of like,
make up your mind first before you
yeah,
know what you want to do.
go
Yeah.
get some experiences, because I'm sorry, a
Right.
high school senior, even the most gifted and involved high school senior, still is not experienced. They have no
Oh yeah.
idea what life, paying bills, working with coworkers. I mean, it's just, yeah, it's
Yeah.
amazing to me. So I love that. Okay, so you have no clue. Here's the good thing, Devin. You're average. You're normal. You
Yeah.
have no effing clue as an
Right.
18-year-old what in the world am I going to do in this life. You go to Mesa Community College. Obviously, Coach, I think you said Coach Roberts,
Coach Jacobs.
Coach Jacobs, had a huge impact on you. How so?
He was like, you just spend so much time with these people, and when you're with them all the time, and the story with him, it's so fascinating because there is a chance that he was never even my coach, but the athletic director at Mesa Community College gets fired. They bring in a new guy, and that guy comes in and kind of tries to clean house and gets rid of a bunch of coaches. And there's, Coach Jacobs was one of them. And I had heard from a teammate. He was like, yeah, I like ran into him at a movie theater or something. And he was telling me how Coach Jacobs might not be coming back. And, there are some other coaches on campus that were trying to take over, and not take over, but step in if he weren't coming back. And, the new athletic director that was there was trying to kick the old people out and bring new people in that he was to hire. And, how that
Oh
deal
yeah.
goes. So,
Yeah.
so I remember getting to MCC, not even knowing if we had a coach or not,
Wow.
because you're just a freshman kid you don't know many if any of the
You don't know
teammates.
anything, right?
You
Yep.
don't have you have no information, right? So anyway, he ends up staying, and he was our event coach, so I'm with him every single day.
You stayed 400-ish.
Yeah, I stayed.
Yep.
I ran the same 3 events my entire track and field career. I ran the open 4, the 4x1, and the 4x4. That's all I
Okay.
did. There's a little triple jump stint in there, but it didn't last very long. So
Your
but
choice or coaches?
a little bit of both.
Yeah, okay.
But anyway, Coach Jacobs, he was our event coach. You just spend so much time with those people. You start lifting in August when school starts.
Right.
You lift. You're in the weight room 3-4 days a week up until you start running in Arizona. For us, it was late. It was before Halloween, so couple weeks before Halloween through May. And when you're with the event coach every day, I mean, it's very easy to become best friends with him, or at least you
Mhm.
think you are, until he's
Yeah.
making you run workouts. So,
Hey, how did you, something that makes me always wonder, uh, when you're in high school, a lot of our male track athletes are playing football or soccer or basketball, and so
mhm,
you're kind of competing all year. Going through the fall, you're competing, and then into your track season.
yeah,
When you get to college, you're typically a single sport athlete. So now you're
right,
doing track in the spring and you're practicing in the fall, but you have no, like, when you're doing a hard practice, you're just about to get to that too, about what, you think you're good friends until he makes you puke, basically, right?
yeah,
You're doing that in the fall with no, like, the fun part is competing. You have no,
right,
like, it's hard for you to see, oh, January, which in Arizona you might not even be until March, right? in when you're doing that in March of your high school, it's like, well, this weekend I get to compete. So I know this sucks on Monday,
Right.
but Saturday I get to show out. How did you handle, because I'm assuming you did not practice in the fall, or at least consistently in high school, but in college you did. How did you handle the I'm practicing all the freaking time and I don't get to show off at a meet now that I'm in
Yeah,
college?
I think I mean, when we were in high school, it's very different than it is now, and I can get to both of those. But there weren't really club meets or anything in high school at that time.
Right.
Everything that was club then was in the summer. I couldn't even tell you if there was. I'm sure there was, but like Nike Indoor Nationals,
Yeah, I don't
New
know.
Balance Indoor. I don't even know that was a thing back in
I
like
don't
2005, 6, 7, 8. I
I
don't.
can't even I feel like I'd be very in tune with it. And even I can't think of there
I,
had to be
I
though. There had to be something, but
there had to have been one meet, for high
and
school kids
and
to
probably
congregate.
in the Northeast and
Right,
for cold weather
right,
states, because you're in Arizona, there
right,
is no indoor track and field in
right.
Arizona. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, you wouldn't even as a high schooler,
I
because
wouldn't even know where to
yeah,
compete if I
right,
wanted
right,
to.
right, 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 right.
Right.
Hmm.
So for being in high school, it's funny enough, I got cut from my basketball team as a senior.
Hmm.
New coaching staff, him and I, we didn't see eye to eye as a emotional 17-year-old, which is totally fine.
Hmm.
But me and a couple other kids who also didn't play a winter sport, we started training with our coach
Yeah.
at the time. And once we got back from Christmas break, so that's in January, which isn't a huge off season, but it's, hey, we're not doing anything. He wanted to start working, and we got a group together, and that group slowly grows. And and so for us to, I guess, kind of understanding that early is, hey, if we start practicing now, we're going to be very successful in
Hmm.
1 month, 2 month, 3 months, and then that eventually paid off, winning a state championship in the 4x4 and
Hmm.
having a state runner-up title as a team, and getting a banner, for the gym and a trophy and all that stuff. Like, that
That's
was all
cool.
really cool. So when you get to college, and it's funny here, the junior college region here, they do compete in indoor, but all of our indoor meets are outdoor. So
Is that
when
right?
we
Still today?
yeah, still today. I mean, you can
Interesting.
travel up to Flagstaff and go
Right,
run
right,
at
right, 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 right.
NAU. You can go to Albuquerque,
Yeah.
which is where some teams decide to go. But I mean, they're running the 60 outdoor when it's 60, 70
Interesting.
degrees outside. They're running all that stuff outside. So it's a
North,
little different in sense of the
yeah.
trueness to indoor, or how real indoor track is here. And when you go,
Right.
it's funny, the year I coached at MCC, I finally got to understand it, because we'd always hear it from our coaches, but like those coaches back east, they're not super pumped about the Arizona schools getting to compete outdoors
Yeah.
outdoors for all this time,
Yeah.
before they finally step foot on an indoor track. So I
Yeah.
think it's just seeing that goal of, hey, if we work hard now, we'll be successful later.
Right.
And you really got to be committed to getting better and to working hard if you think that that's going to be your path, because like you said, you're not competing until the first indoor meet for the junior college season here is at the end of January.
Right.
In high school, if you you don't start competing until the first weekend in March. So
Yeah.
if you can get past that hard work part of doing nothing for later, it
Yeah.
gets a lot easier.
One of the I'm gonna pull the curtain back here a little, Devin. I think I can do this with you. One of the hardest things about being a podcast host of a podcast like this, interview style,
Mhm.
kind of long form bio type
Yeah,
style, is when I'm asking a question. I'm you're it's in our nature to answer it at whatever age and stage, Devin, you are today, meaning
right,
all the experience you've built up over the years. And what I really like when we get to the gold is when I can get Devin to go back to being an 18-year-old and answering that
right.
question. And here's why I say that, Devin. Maybe you're catching on a little bit to where I'm getting at. You just answered that question as Devin, I don't know how old you are, doesn't matter. Devin today, meaning, oh, if you work hard, you can see that it'll pay off in the future. I don't know many 18-year-olds that can say, oh yeah, I'm cool working out, busting my hump today in August, because you know what, in February and March it's gonna pay off. It's like, man, it
Yeah.
sucks, bro. I'm out here puking my guts off and I don't get to go. I like to be on the relay, and there's no relay this Saturday.
Right.
The relay 6 months from now. You know what I'm saying? I appreciate the way you answered that question, Coach. I'm wondering if you can. It's hard because that was years ago. Can
Right.
you access that part of your memory and the feeling part of your memory when you were a freshman at Mesa? It's October. It's hot. Jealous.
Oh
Uh,
yeah.
you're working harder than you ever have because it's long. You started earlier and you got better
Yeah.
overall teammates, so you're working harder. You can't wait to find out, man, I wonder how fast my open quarter is today. Like, man,
Yeah.
I was screwing around in high school in October and I'm busting hump here. Oh, but I don't get to do that until March. uh
Hmm.
how did 18-year-old Devin handle that?
So like I said earlier, your track and field teammates are your friends for life. One of my really good friends, Clark Coyle, he went on to run for Coach Flood at GCU
Hmm.
here in Arizona.
Mhm.
I think he's part of that national championship team they had before they moved to Division One. But so he was one of the best kids in the state. He was a year older than I was, so he was a sophomore, and I got to MCC. Um, but in him being one of my teammates, great friend, he kicked my ass for an entire season. I mean, just every single rep, every single workout, every single whatever. And when you're, and this isn't, I'm not trying to boast myself here, but like when you're the best kid coming in and that older kid is already there, he's like, oh, we just signed this freshman from so and so, and he's this fast, and whatever. And I've coached, so I've seen it, but it's that older kid, because that was me my second year. That older kid is like, this kid's not coming in here and it's not going to be easy for him. So every day at practice he was kicking my ass. I remember what changed everything for me was over Christmas break. It was me, him, and a heptathlete from ASU who needed to keep training over break. Our track was being redone, so the way that the stadium is shaped here at Mesa Community College, it's you can run a grass. There's like a half-mile loop if you run it all the way on the perimeter of the track. So it's
Yep.
in the grass behind the bleachers, under the bleachers, and kind of where you end is. It looks it looks like a big 300 basically.
Mhm.
So if you run that, you can run it as a half all the way around, or you run it as a 600, 700 ish.
Yep.
To the opposite end of the of the course, I guess. So we ran that, and every day we were waking up at 8 o'clock in the morning to go run with Coach Jacobs, me, Clark, and I think her name was Samantha. If she hears this, I'm very sorry. But every day he beat me. He made me look bad, and and that was kind of like the, hey, we're not we're not at Higley anymore. This is, if you want to be good, it's going to take a lot of hard work and stuff. And, and when you get to that point of, getting your butt kicked in every day and all this other stuff, it changes a lot, and you find out a lot about yourself on if you're going to, quit or if you're going to fight. And, I think my success to him, because I learned a lot about, it's not going to be easy and all that stuff. So, I used to tell that story all the time and still do. But yeah, that that 2.5 weeks of winter when we were on our own and I was
Yeah.
just training with him and our coach, and I remember this too. We had one of our spring coaches who was there. I remember being at a meet one day, just so frustrated, like I wasn't running as well as I thought I should be. But he came up to me and told me, he said, "Hey, uh, you're not running as fast as you would expect to be running right now, and that's part of being a freshman here. But I'm telling you right now that you had such a great fall, like
Mm.
lifting and working out and all that stuff, that everything's not going to click right now when you're body catches up to, the hard work and all that stuff, it's going to change a lot for you. And it did eventually later that year.
Yeah.
But it's,
Was that coach or athlete? I'm sorry that said that to
that
you.
was that was a coach that was telling me
Yeah,
that.
that's
And
that's a coach right there, buddy.
that was a
Absolutely.
young
Yeah.
that was a young
Yeah.
coach who
Yeah.
who had gone through the same stuff, and
Yeah, that's
told
coaching there.
me, once everything catches up to itself, like, you're going to
Yeah.
be fine, and you're going to be running, as
Now
fast as you expect to be, and all that stuff, and it did. So
that
I owe a lot to him.
that perspective, Devin, is 18-year-old Devin. Thank you for
Yeah.
that is that what you described earlier were the lessons you've learned from
Right.
going through that aspect, but that is the truth. When you are either the best person on your high school team or one of the top persons on your high school
Mm-hmm.
team, and then you go to college and you're like, ah, crap, I'm like eighth. Wait a minute. I
Yeah.
haven't finished a rep and was fourth. Like, I haven't done that in years since I was a freshman in
Right.
high school. What is going on
Right.
here? And you're right, there becomes forks in the road, and you probably face this fork several times. Most 18-year-old kids do. Of, man, do I even show back up tomorrow? I don't need this. I mean, I love
Yeah.
track, but you know what, I can just go to class. I can go get a
Right.
job.
Yeah,
And,
absolutely.
and you kind of go through sometimes that fork in the road of recommitting, like, okay, I'm not quitting. That's a recommit to
Yeah.
track and to practice and to the team and to yourself as well. So that story, like that to me is gold. When someone listens to this
Yeah.
episode and they hear that and they go, you know what? I did that too. You're right. I was, because it fascinates me, even with, and this is where I push back on this narrative of, coaches, regardless whether they're at Arizona State or Mesa Community College, that they don't develop athletes. They only want the ready-made athlete, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And I look at every single number one kid in the country, no matter what event, that
Mm-hmm.
kid is not going to win the national title next year based on where they are that day.
Right.
We've got kids in high school running 995, 997, 99. That's amazing. I mean, that's crazy. I can't even, I graduated high school in 94. I remember when I met a 1060 kid and I was like, holy crap, you're the fastest kid in the world,
Yeah.
and there's a kid now running 99 in high school. Kids, by the way, running
Yeah.
99, and still they will not win NCAAs at 997. Meaning,
Funny.
where they go, they're not going to probably be the number one kid. They're going to go to Georgia, Texas, USC, wherever else the other fast kids are, and they're going to finish a rep in second or third and be like, wait a minute, I I was nice to kill everybody in high school. And they also, two things. One, they're going to have those same forks in the road.
Yeah.
Whether you're a 9-9 kid or a 10-9, it happens almost to every one of us where it's like, oh, is this really what I'm supposed to be doing? Because it is a different intensity level in college. And two, that whoever's coaching that nine, I think one of them or two of them went to Georgia. So Carol Smith Gilbert and her staff, who does an amazing job, they're going to have to develop that kid to a
Right.
990 flat, 989, 987 to win NCAAs. So
Yeah.
this whole notion of coaches don't develop, I just kick to the curb. I think that's just ridiculous. But it's amazing to me that kids who were top of their team at a high school, you've got some decisions to make, and I think
You
it
know,
makes you better.
it's fun. It's funny you say that. Coaching's it's a funny world, and it's a funny job, but and we'll get to this more when we get to that part of the interview. But just quickly, I was fortunate enough to, I say coach. I was fortunate enough to coach Vance Nilsson, who's the national record holder in the 300
Oh
meter hurdle.
yeah, that's right.
I'm sure we talked during that time at some point,
Yeah,
but I was
that's
fortunate
right.
enough to coach him. And just like you said, he had an amazing senior season. He went on to run at the trials, missed the final by one spot.
Hmm.
But when he went to Florida, it was the same stuff. He didn't win nationals as a freshman. He went there, he had some injury issues, and I was fortunate enough to see him last year when he came home before around the end of the season. But just like you said, it doesn't matter how good you are right now.
Yeah,
You're not winning nationals as a freshman. I mean, Jane
yeah,
Hendrickson, the same
yeah,
thing. It's
yeah.
part of
That's
the
another
development.
great example, right?
It's
Hmm.
part of the development. It's part
That's
of the
right.
sport, and that's
That's right.
that's why I think that's why track and field is so different. I think in terms of coaching, I've coached girls basketball for some time with a couple of my really good friends.
Hmm.
Um, but with, when you get those kids as freshmen in high school, and they stick in the program for 4 years, there's a girl that I coached who's at Adams State right now, but she started her first freshman mile, I believe, is like 5:42 or 5:37, somewhere in there. she ended her high school career at 4:56. I mean, that's that long progression
Dude.
of hard work and
Yeah.
showing every day and doing what's right and being a great teammate. And that's the stuff that kind of, propels
All right.
individual athletes in programs. So, I
Yeah.
totally understand where
That's
you're
so
coming
cool. Is Vance still at Florida?
He is still at Florida. Yes, he just
You know what?
competed last
What
weekend.
what a great example. Because again, I almost called this podcast the Mythbusters because I just
Mhm.
unlike not unlike society in general in our sport in our profession of track and field, sometimes the negative is the loudest, and
Mhm.
and we forget that there is positive, right? So, one of the negatives is that coaches don't want to develop bupkis. Another negative we hear is, oh, kids today, soon as they have any adversity, they just transfer. Look at the
Yeah.
transfer portal, Mike. It's full of them. Vance has gone through some injuries, some disappointment. He's not
Yeah.
had, quote unquote, the easy road. And
Right.
he's sticking with Mouse in that program. I love that
Yeah.
for him. Again, that just shows that not everybody is transferring. Are people transferring? Sure. They used to transfer back in the day
Oh,
too, by the
absolutely.
way. Are more transferring today? Possibly, not only because maybe it's a little easier, and I don't know if that's actually true, but uh, I think it's more culturally. Like you turn on ESPN today, and all we talk about is transfer. You
Yeah.
watch a football game, and the announcers make a point to say, formerly of BYU,
Yeah.
the Texas running back, whatever, blah blah blah. Like they say it every single time. Every single time
Yeah.
that kid touches the ball, they'll say formerly of BYU, and it's like, shut up, he's at Texas now, or whatever.
Yeah. We care
Like
about what he's doing right now.
exactly. And so it's
Yeah.
kind of, I think it's culturally like, oh, it's cool to transfer. Or it's like you almost like, if you don't transfer, what's wrong with you, kind of mentality with our young
Yeah.
people and coaches. So that's what I was hoping. I was like, I hope he's still there, because that just shows, and there's a lot of
Yeah.
factors that go into it, but I love that he's there and sticking with it. Okay, Devin, we didn't come here to talk about transfer portal, although that always pops up. uh, you're at Mesa. You go through a freshman year. You get better. I love it. Now you're a sophomore. Uh, take me through sophomore year and what happens next. It's junior college. You only get 2 years. You got to move
Yeah.
on. Although maybe today's world we can do 5 years of JUCO. Who knows anymore? But
Hey,
back
who knows?
then
Yeah.
we only did 2 years, right?
I had a JUCO teammate that was there for a long time, right? Medical red shirt, physical red shirt, all
Seriously?
that stuff. So, yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. It was a whole deal. So, second year at MCC was really good. It was, like every year, new kids come in and the old kids leave. And it was a similar situation where at this point now I'm Clark and
Now you're the guy. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I'm the number one guy on the team,
Mhm.
and the new freshman kid comes in and he's not beating us. And it's funny because you have such a short time on the team because it's only the 2 years,
Right.
but as hard as we worked and the groups that kept coming in, like they kept passing down hey, we don't screw around here. It's,
Right.
we show up to practice, we work hard, we don't miss days, and we qualify for nationals. Like that's our thing.
Right.
And so it was that's kind of how it went. We showed up in the fall. We started, I think I remember coming back from nationals my freshman year, taking some time off and then immediately getting right back into the weight room. I remember going to lunch with a professor at the time, Jeff Messer, who I'm sure if people hear this, they're all going to know that name. He's in South Dakota now. He was a great coach in the state of Arizona. He coached
Yeah, I know that name.
Jessica McLean. He
Yeah.
coached Jessica McLean, who's now a marathon runner.
Yeah. So he was
He
a professor
coached
at
Danny
Mesa?
Jones, and he was a professor at Mason Community College.
Oh,
I
okay.
still talk to him to this day.
Yeah.
Very good friends.
Yeah, I know.
But I remember going to lunch with him and, hey, what do you want your off season to look like? Hey, this is what everyone is like. It's so funny because like just dumb 19-year-old me
Hold
was
on.
like,
You said he was a professor. Was he coaching on the staff?
he did not coach. He did not coach us. He coached
Interesting.
Xavier Prep, which is Xavier College Prep, which is a high school where
Yeah,
he
yeah.
got linked up with Jess McLean, Jess Tunn at the time.
Okay.
And he coached there, then moved over to Desert Vista.
Okay. So sorry to
Where he
interrupt. I
coached
just was
Danny
like, wait a minute.
Jones
You
and
keep
some
saying
others. Yeah,
professor,
no,
but
no,
I
no,
know him
no.
as coach. Yeah. Okay. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry. Sorry.
No, the running world is so small.
No,
So
I know. I love it.
there's so many people who know, so many people. But
Love it.
I remember my dumb brain was, I got to get bigger and stronger. That's why I didn't run fast. So he was like, I don't think that's really the right path you need to go down. Just keep being in the weight room
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
working hard or whatever. So I remember from July to October, whenever, my focus was to get stronger, to help workouts, go smoother, stay healthy, all that stuff. And it did. And, you start running in October, and, it's making sure you're not losing the freshman kids on your team and trying to set the example of, hey, if we're going to be successful, it starts with me and my other two buddies, who were sophomores with me. And, just we ended up, having a really good year. And I think we broke the school record as freshmen, and then we came back and broke it again as sophomores with a different fourth person. But I mean, it all, back to what we were saying earlier, like it all starts in the fall, and, putting in those hard days then. So when you get to those meets on the weekends, it's, hey, this is the easy part. We've run 4x450, 3x6, or, whatever that is. Like, we've done all the hard stuff. So now it's just doing it all in a race. And that's, so, I mean, year two was great. And, you just, I tell this story a lot, but the thing that I'll never forget about that second year was, I remember coming home from Paradise Valley Community College with Coach Jacobs. And so we used to drive white vans to every meet, and we had 6 coaches. There were 6 groups. Everyone rode basically with their event group. And I remember riding, it was our relay team and a couple other sprinters. But we were all riding with Coach Jacobs, and he was telling, some of the freshmen, his story about, almost not having a job and that whole deal with the athletic director. And like, he was like, like I said, you just spend so much time with these people and you become like family. And he was telling us a story, and he was like starting to get emotional, and like, we're all kind of getting like sitting there, like getting emotional, like, sorry, coach, like, we're glad you're here. It's like, and it's just you. And then from that moment, I mean, he went on and coached for 15 more years. So, it's just such a, track and field is just such a funny world. And, it's a lot of, it's not sexy work, as Messer used to say, but it's, if you do everything right and you have a good coach and you're following the plan and doing all the right stuff, I mean, it's, all the hard work does show eventually. It's just it's not the microwave culture of, hey, you get good right now and, you're going to see the results right now, because that's not how our sport is built.
So do you have a major, or are you taking gen ed? What
I'm
are you
taking
doing?
gen ed. I have no clue what I want to do. I'm a
Still,
junior
nothing.
I'm a junior college athlete. I think that I'm going pro.
Oh,
I
jeez.
have no I have no clue. I was like, man, this track thing's pretty cool. I'd love to just keep doing this.
Nothing caught your interest. You didn't take
Not
a math class and
absolutely
you're like, man, I like
nothing, Mike.
math. No English, nothing.
No,
You're just like,
nothing.
man, I take
Absolutely
classes because
nothing.
that's what I
Yeah.
have to do to run track.
I
Wow.
the famous Cardale Jones, we don't go to play school.
Yeah,
I don't.
that's right. That was pretty funny.
I loved hanging with my buddies. I loved
Yeah.
going to practice, running, and I had no plan in the world.
Yeah.
Just taking gen ed classes, just going through life, honestly.
Yeah. So what happens sophomore year? You don't sound like you're
Sophomore
the guy
year,
who was at junior
we
college for
run
5
well.
years.
We run well. I get recruited kind of late, and that kind of, had I got recruited sooner or earlier, my track career is probably a little different. But I remember it was my 5th semester is when I started hearing from, some different schools across the country. But I had no idea what I wanted to do. Found out at the time my girlfriend was pregnant with my son, so I was like, hey, I'm just going to start working, doing whatever. And then that's kind of how coaching started. A couple years later, I hear from, my former coaches, and then that's kind of how the ball got rolling. So
at Higley, I think
that's actually where I ended up. I remember one of my former teammates who I lived with at the time. I remember he was like, hey, have you heard from Coach Clark? I was like, no. I wasn't on Facebook or, anything. And he was like, yeah, he reached out about, if you and I wanted to, like, volunteer coaching, they needed some help. And I was like, no, I haven't heard from him. I was like, I'll reach out to him. And I probably put it off for longer than I should, but, eventually reached out to him, and, they had a spot open to volunteer. And right before the season started, that sprint coach, I think, quit or left or something. And, he came to me and was like, hey, we've got a spot if you would like to take it. And that's kind of how it got started.
So something you said earlier, I was going to ask, and this maybe is a better place to ask it. So you said, a lot of track, you said, I think it happens more in track, and I think I would agree, but we're also biased. We only know track, like we don't
Yeah.
necessarily know the football and tennis world and golf. And I agree with you that, it seems like a lot of track people are like, they're going to help out, or at least they say they're going to help out. Like, oh, I'd come back and coach and volunteer and all that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. Do you think if we say that it's true that that happens in track and field more than other sports, do you think, well, why do you think that is?
I th- if I had to put my finger on it, I mean, I know this it is for me, and I know that um, I think a lot of people would agree if you think about it in this way. But I just think that like and we're both very biased to track, as you just said, but I think track is very life changing. Like you find out a lot about yourself in those days and how much it does for you at the time. And
I'm going to play devil's advocate here. I've heard that with tennis. I've heard that with lacrosse. I've heard that with basketball. I've heard that with everybody.
it's just such a unique sport to where you're with your teammates every single day, going through some of the hardest things you've ever
Football,
gone through. And
baseball.
no, I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I think there's something unique about our sport to where it is, where I think that it is. So I think it's a life-changing thing. Like
Do
I
you?
would not have the life I have today if it wasn't for that one 4x4 where the kid gets injured. Like, I
So
just wouldn't.
So we haven't explored this before that I can think of. We get on
Yeah.
like these topics where I'll have the same
Yeah.
topic with the next five guests. So this is interesting to me. Do you think this just kind of off the top of my head here? I've never thought about this before. Do you think it's possible that if it's true that this happens more in the track and field world, that people volunteer or be
Mhm.
or coach at a young age and stage,
Right.
etc. Do you think it's because we is very general
Mhm.
coaches, athletes, beginning coaches, maybe older coaches, think that it's easier to coach track and field than it is to coach football, baseball,
I
basketball?
don't think it's easier to coach
No, no,
because
no,
if
no,
you
no,
look
no,
at
no, no. I know we don't. I know
right, right,
me and you know it's not
right,
easy.
right, right.
I'm wondering if, as an 18-year-old, when you said, Coach Johnson, I will definitely come back because it's like, oh, and not even you because you're 18, more of like, and I'm just gonna put Coach Johnson in the spot, and
Yeah,
this is not your Coach Johnson, this is Coach Smith, Coach Johnson, a generic
right.
name. Do we think, oh, he's a good guy, and whether you were good or not, that doesn't matter, but he listens, so he's coachable. He could come back and do the same with our other young people because it's not that hard.
I think the yes and no. I understand what you're saying. I think that it's more of the size of track teams, and you always
Ooh,
need
okay.
more help.
Yeah,
So I
okay,
think
okay,
it's
okay, okay.
easy. I think it's easier to get into coaching because
That makes sense.
hey, if you like, I remember, you know, when I was at Higley, we got up to like 120 in team
Mm-hmm.
size, which
Mm-hmm.
isn't really, I mean, with some of the schools around here, that's not a very big team.
Right.
But when schools only have 6 coaches on stipend, if you have people that want to volunteer their time to
That
help
makes
with the younger
sense.
kids and all, I think it's easier to get into because of that sense where,
Yeah.
hey, more eyes, we need more people that want to be here. I,
Right.
I, I know that I think that part is true. Uh,
Yeah. That makes a lot of sense to me.
and
Absolutely.
when it comes to the team sport part of it, I coached girls basketball for 5 or 6 years.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that part's a little different because they have 2 teams per coach, or two
Mm-hmm.
coaches per team, and
Yeah,
and
because like,
and
okay,
that's
so you coached
really the
basketball,
opportunity or the open door to get in, I guess.
like you coached basketball. How many volunteer coaches did you have there? And caveat, because you could have had a lot, and that's fine.
Mhm.
How many got to run their own groups? Hey, yeah, yeah, you're volunteer. Go run the point guards while I run
Yeah,
the forwards. Never.
when I was at Higley, we had 4 paid coaches. When I was at Gilbert, we had a different situation. We had, I think, 4 paid coaches, 2 volunteers, but one of those volunteers had been there since the head coach got there. He was a good friend of his,
Mm-hmm.
and one coach was there for 1 year. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's more,
Like I've
you know,
heard
and
of the kid who graduates college, comes back to his high school, and hey, take the sprinters. You're now the
Yeah.
sprint coach.
Right.
I don't know that I've ever heard, and again, I'm only in the track and field world, but I don't know that I've heard of that kid who plays college football, comes back to his high school, and oh yeah, now you're the linebacker coach. I've heard of them come back and be the assistant linebacker coach, and that does
Right.
play.
Yeah.
You made a really good point about the size and lack thereof of full-time coaches.
Right.
That's interesting to me because you're right. The player coach ratio for like basketball is ridiculous, and
Yeah.
and I my bias says the athlete to coach relationship in like tennis and golf is less because they're out. Like I know tennis is like everybody's at one place, but golf, they're in hole 9 and I'm on hole 1 or whatever.
Yeah.
So there's less coaching. That's a bias. I could be some golf coach may hit me up and holler at me for that, but that's interesting. It just interests me. I have
Yeah.
talked to on camera and obviously off camera with a lot of coaches that I'm like, dude, you're 23, 24. It doesn't matter about the age. It's more about their experience. And you're
Right.
the head sprint coach or the distance coach. I'm like, you're not ready. Like that's
Right.
crazy. You're not responsible enough to run this program.
Oh,
That
yeah,
just
absolutely.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. Now they get there,
Right.
typically, but man, it just seems like we allow young, inexperienced coaches more control earlier than other sports. Is what it feels like.
I when I first started coaching, and I've told this to anyone, a lot of people, anyone who's asked me this, but I remember if I got all the control I thought I wanted my first year coaching ever, I would have never come back ever.
Well, yeah. So some
It
bad
was so
things.
much.
Yeah, 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 yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I'm with you. I'm with
Don't
you.
ask for,
Yeah,
don't want all the control.
yeah,
I
yeah,
promise you it's a good thing if the head coach is
yeah,
standing over your shoulder,
yeah. Uh,
still
it,
telling
it,
you what to do.
Exactly. And by the way, I'm pointing thumbs, not fingers.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
I was the assistant coach at high school, my very first job up in Chicago. The very next year, the head coach retired, and I was still in college. I was 20. I don't even know if I was 21. It would have been my junior year of college. So yeah, no, I wasn't 21. And I convinced it was a Catholic school, so the father, I guess is what the
Yeah.
principal was, to make me the head coach. I was 20. I was 2 years older than my seniors.
Right, right,
And I'm
right. Yeah,
like now that I look back, I'm like, I don't think you made a very good decision, sir. What were you
yeah,
putting me in charge of? That's crazy, dude. That's
yeah.
crazy. But that's not uncommon in
Oh,
our
absolutely
sport. And
no.
I it just made me think
I
about it when we were
I
talking
think
about that.
I think that part of it too is you just don't find a lot of track coaches.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
very niche. It's
Yeah.
oh you know
Which is
oh you
crazy though, because when you in high school, if you had boys and girls together, were the most participated sport in the out of everybody. When in college and you had men and women together, we're the most participated sport out of everybody.
right,
So you are more likely when you go grocery shopping later on this week, you are more likely to run into someone who has participated in track and field in some form or fashion than you are to run
right.
into someone who played
Oh,
football or
absolutely. Yes,
basketball.
yes,
But
yes.
you're right. But we have, we need more track and field coaches. I mean, there's lots of
Yeah.
programs that have one for crying out
Right.
loud.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. Okay, all right. So you're a youngin, even though you're out of college and you've had some work life experience. What was it like your first, if you can even remember the first day, but the first season of coaching? How did it go for you?
It was just like the young piece you were just talking about. I was 22. I mean, I wasn't much older than the kids I was coaching, but I remember so back to my roommate at the time. I remember he was like, "Hey, like, are we both decided to help at Higley, which was, one of the best decisions of my life. But we both decided to help there, and I remember I still have it. I should have had it ready to go, but I remember we planned our entire track season in like this pocket calendar. We planned everything. We thought we were going to be
Wow.
the
Yeah.
greatest coaches of all time. We were
Yeah.
very excited. We planned it all. And then you quickly find out that planning
What
out
a,
an entire track season never works.
what a fantastic rookie mistake. I love that. Absolutely. Here's what's
You
cool.
very quickly find
You
out that it does not
think,
work.
yeah, you think like, oh, I'm 10 steps ahead here. I'm acting like a 30-year-old coach doing
Yeah.
this. Like, oh man.
Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, I just wasted my time.
Which is the complete opposite from how I operated, later in
That's
my career.
awesome.
Was I'm driving to practice, figuring out what we're going to do, as
Well,
opposed to,
that might have been the other extreme, though, Devin. Somewhere in the middle is where we actually needed to be. But
yeah, somewhere in the middle,
Yeah,
But yeah,
I
no,
do
I
love that
remember
you started on this far side, though. Like, we're gonna do the whole freaking year. It's like, well, you don't even know what the
we
weather
had
is going
everything
to be
planned.
tomorrow.
We had our, I still have it, and I just laugh at it every time
That's
I see it.
awesome.
It's
I
just
love
sitting in
that.
my desk drawer. But
That's cool. You
I
kept it
remember,
too. That's cool. I
yeah, I
love that.
remember being excited, just ready to go. And like I said, if the coach gave me all the power I thought I wanted, I would have never come back. And
Yeah.
that's kind of the running joke for,
Yeah.
that entire year. And, back to, my youth running is, you spend so much time with these coaches and people, and,
Right.
and you want to make sure, I mean, I had 3 coaches in 3 years for, as a sprinter.
Mhm.
So when these kids are, hey, are you coming back next year? It's like, oh, I don't know. We'll see. And, that kind of deal. And, when you're not competing, you just fall in love with the challenge of, hey, can we beat the school down the road? Or, can we get this kid to, can we get this kid into state? Can we win a state title as a team? And, that was kind of, that part of it. That challenge is a lot of fun. And when you're not competing, I mean, that's all the competition you're going to get. And it's so, rewarding when you see these kids who, don't think that they're, going to be a great sprinter one day, or
Right.
just out there because they want the t-shirt, and you see them run a PR and how much it means to them. And, I remember that from very early on. And it's like, hey, this can be a lot of fun if we're, if we're committed to doing it, as committed as the kids are, at least,
You had 4 different sprint coaches in high school, and
Correct.
assumably all 4 had, it might not have been radically different, but had different ways of coaching
Yeah.
sprinters. You go to Mesa, I assume coach had a different way of coaching sprinters. So you've seen a lot of different ways of how
Yeah.
you might coach sprinters. How did you figure out what your philosophy style was going to be?
I based a lot of my running off of Coach Jacobs at MCC. Like, we're gonna show up every day and work hard. There's nothing sexy about working out, but that's what we're gonna work hard every day. And if we can outwork the school down the road by doing the right stuff, then we're gonna be successful. And it's kind of relaying that message to kids. And hey, it's not easy. We know it's not easy, but if we're in this together, if you're in this with your teammates, it's gonna get easier. It's gonna get better. So,
What did you do again? Devin, you're giving me a lot of coach speak on that stuff.
Yeah, I know.
It's okay. It's all right. That's my job. That's my job to help you take the layers. We got to get some layers here.
Yeah.
What did you do coaching education wise? Now, I take coaching education as 2 different buckets, formal and informal. Both are extremely important. Informal is I called coach up at Mesa, my old coach, and was like, hey, I'm struggling. Our 4x4, our 400-meter guys aren't doing X, Y, and Z. What would you do here? That kind of thing. Formal is our USATF level 1, level 2s, UFT, CCCAs, Altus. You're out in Arizona.
Yeah.
What did you do at this time frame in
when I started, I did nothing. I was young. I thought I knew everything. And,
sure.
And especially if you see success in doing nothing, not that I saw any, I'm just saying, but if you see that success when you're doing nothing, it's like, oh, it's really, we can be, we can just keep doing the same thing every year, and it's going to keep working. But then you quickly realize that it doesn't work that way. Every team is different. Every group is different. And you can't do that. So I remember, so as the years go on, I don't know that I reached out as much as I did later or towards the middle of my career. But I remember, to fast forward a few years, and we had some success, and it's not that, we needed to or didn't need to change anything. But I remember, so I coached at Higley for 4 years, I think, as a sprint coach, become the head coach at like 25-ish, somewhere around there. And I still kept coaching sprints. Our distance coach was the former cross country coach. And I remember I had a football kid who ended up running the mile at Ryder in New Jersey. But I think I want to say I started training him around as a sophomore. He was a miler in high school, but trying to figure out how he didn't like running the miles. Like, that was kind of like, he's like, I hate distance running, but this is the only thing I'm good at. I was like, okay, well, we'll figure it out. And I remember from my time running at Mesa Community College that I thought as a 400-meter runner in our 400-meter training group, I could run any event on the track. That was kind of my dumb brain of I'm 18, 19, I'm in the best shape of my life. I think I can compete with anyone.
Yeah.
But also a little bit of confidence thinking like, hey, we do work really hard. I don't see why I couldn't do this. So, we started, so that kid, Andrew, started running with our 400 meter group. And that's kind of where my, I guess, willingness to grow as a coach came from, like starting to reach out to people and, hey, how can I have kids from the distance group with my group and try to figure things out. And that's when, hey, you can run our hard workouts with us, but on Tuesdays and Wednesdays or Tuesdays and Thursdays, whatever days of the week that is, you're doing 30-minute runs, you're doing 40-minute, whatever that is. Reaching out to Jeff Messer and, a funny story about the community itself. But I remember we had a girl from Higley who was pretty good. Her name was Lindsay Simpson, and she went to Woodbridge, the cross country meet in California. And I think at that time I might have been coaching her. Her mom had reached out and she wanted to work with me over the summer between the end of track and the beginning of cross country. So we ended up working together. Anyway, she goes to Woodbridge. I think it was either her sophomore or her junior year. She goes to Woodbridge, and I remember just looking at the results, and it was, I'm gonna screw up the name of the high school, but it's the Buchanan High School. It's Buchanan High School, Clovis, the school that's really good.
John Buchanan up in Clovis.
Yes, they go to NXN every year. They're one of the top schools in California distance wise every single year. But I remember seeing their name in the results, and just, I remember I was like, I'm just gonna reach out to this coach, see if he's got any willingness to talk to some 26-year-old coach who knows nothing about the distance world. And I think his name was Coach Weaver. I don't know if he's still there. If someone knows him and he sees this, you changed my life. But I remember reaching out to him, and he was super gracious with his time, and he spent a couple hours with me on the phone, and he was like, I'll email you over some stuff. And, and he sent me over some charts and all this stuff, some workouts and all this stuff. And I think that's one of the unique things about our world is that, like, and I've talked about this with other sport coaches, but like, they're a little coy about how they go about sharing information. But for us, it's like, I can give you the way that we work out. You can give me the way that you work out, but that doesn't mean it's going to work for you. Right. You know what I mean? It doesn't mean it's going to work for your kids, but, taking the time to learn from other coaches, for me, I mean, I didn't do it when I was a young coach, but getting older, I think that was kind of the only way to kind of, become successful, because there's so many different ways to do it. And you think that your way, a lot of coaches early think that their way is the only way of doing it. And you find out very quickly that, not every kid can, you have, a 49-second 400-meter runner in high school, a 53, and a kid that runs 63. Those kids can't all do the same workouts. Right. So you have to find a way to reach all of those kids at the same time under the same umbrella. Like, hey, what is going to work for everybody? Especially on a team of, when you've got 80 sprinters that you're working out, when you have those large groups that track teams usually have.
I love the humility, curiosity, hunger of seeing, like, oh, this is a big cross country meet. Boy, this Buchanan, they must be doing something right, because there's a lot of them in the top 10 or 20 or whatever. And then to actually reach out, that to me is, when I think about what a good track and field coach is, that to me is a hallmark of, like, okay, you're a good coach, because what you're doing is you're trying to learn something so that you can pass it through you to someone else. It's this is one of the more selfless pursuits we have as a coach, is I'm trying to learn as much as possible about XYZ event, not because I'm going to get better. I mean, I'll be smarter, I guess, but I'm not going to run a better mile if I go learn about the mile. Mine's done.
Yeah.
But Johnny and Susie might benefit from this. So how do I learn it and then communicate it to them? So I love that. My challenge to you, Devin, is going to be, go find that coach. This is 2026, brother. There ain't no way you can't find them on the internet somewhere, somehow, or someone who has a connection. And you tell if it was Coach Weaver, you go tell Coach Weaver thank you, because I think we have a lot of amazing coaches. I think of some of our teaching coaches like Bushek Nader and Vince Anderson, etc. And
Yeah.
I don't want to be telling those people thank you when I'm remembering them at their death. I want these
Right.
people to know today the positive impact they make on other coaches, because Coach Weaver's legacy is not only what he did at Buchanan and what other schools he
Right.
might have been at. It's actually, you sit
These
on his
kids in,
shoulder. Yeah,
yeah.
he
Yeah.
doesn't know that kid went to Rider partly because you helped him, or he helped
Yeah.
you to help him. So I just think it's
Yeah.
very important. So that's going to be my challenge to you on that. I love that story. That is, I just, that to me is the epitome of like, oh, tell me a good coaching story. It ain't about the kid who went from 6 minutes to 4 minute 30. It's, oh,
Yeah.
another coach poured into me, and that helped me take that 6 minute kid to 4:30 and a bunch of other kids
Right.
to 4:20 or whatever, blah blah blah. That to me is coaching purity in track and field. So I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, you're at Higley for 5-ish years, I think. Where and
I
why
was
do we go next?
so I was at Higley for 10. I was there for, I think so. I was there for 10 years in total.
Okay.
I was there for 6. Then I left and went to MCC for a year. We had
Hmm.
a new athletic director coming into Higley. Coach Jacobs wanted me to come take over sprints for him,
Hmm.
which I was totally on board with, or at least I thought. If he sees this, he's going to be so upset. But I wanted to go coach there for a year and help out, and I did that, and it was a lot of fun. It's just it's a different group, and I was part of that group once, so I get it, but it's
Hmm.
kids who I don't want to lump them all together,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
when
yeah.
you
Right.
get to college, I know everything. I don't need coaching,
It's
whatever. And
different. Absolutely.
especially being at a junior college where you're
Hmm.
trying to get to the next stop. You're not
Hmm.
you're not you're
Hmm.
not going to be there for 4 years,
Yeah.
obviously. So unless you're my one teammate, but if you're going to be there for that short amount of time, and and you're trying to get out, and that's kind of that's the tough part of junior college track and field. And
It's the
we
hardest one
ran
to
well.
coach.
We ran well. We qualified for nationals. When I realized that I was not a junior college coach was when I had to go recruit kids.
Mm.
I love talking to people, but
I was about to say, where did you struggle? It's about
I'm not
relationship
great.
building, Devin.
I'm not a seller. I'm not a, hey, come to Mesa Community College. We're doing a lot of great things. Like I don't like talking to people like that. If I know people already, I'm fine with it. And then it's just the way that like junior college track is just looked down on. Like
Oh, sure.
oh,
Yeah.
I mean, hey, where are you going to school next year? Is like, oh, I'm gonna try to go run at ASU. Is like, well, we race ASU and we're just as good as they are
Right, right.
in
And
some
let me
events.
tell you,
So are
buddy,
you
you
sure?
ain't
Yeah.
going to ASU. Trust me.
Yeah, it's like, well, I'm talking to you because I don't think you're good enough to go to wherever you think you're
Right, right,
going.
right, right.
And I think we'll give you a great opportunity to
Yeah,
come here to school,
yeah,
for free.
yeah.
There's if you're a high academic kid, we've got a chance to get you in the doors here for
Right.
free, put some money in your pocket, and give you a chance to go to that school in a couple of
Right.
years. But that's when I kind of
It's
quickly
tough.
realized I was like, I don't know that I'm cut out for this. And it's so funny because junior college, it always works out where so-and-so thinks they're going here, they don't end up going, and then they call you in 3 months and they're like, hey, I wonder if you still have a spot on your team. And
Hmm.
had I wrote it out, like we probably would have been fine. But
Yeah,
you just think that
you're
you have,
adaptable. You would have learned.
yeah,
Yeah.
you think that you have to go door to door recruiting these kids,
Mhm.
or school to school as the reality of it. But you go to these schools and you're recruiting these kids to come, and you might get 2 kids to say yes in April, but you might get 10 kids to say yes in July. So
Right. Right.
I just don't think I gave it enough time.
Yeah,
But that was kind
that
of
sounds
part of
fair.
it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So anyway, so I'm at MCC for a year, and then there was a weird situation that happened at Higley with the coaches that took over after I left, where they didn't get along really well. And I remember, I hope Andrew, when I'm going to send this to Andrew so he can hear this story, but it's just so funny to me. But so two of the coaches got into a little bit of a verbal altercation at practice. I remember getting a call from Andrew like, "You'll never guess what happened at practice today. We don't have a coach anymore." I was like, "Oh, okay." And then the coach that I left, Coach Fentress, she was still there. I remember her telling me the same exact thing. And I remember the new athletic director that took over. He calls me, and I had never talked to him before,
Mm.
Mr. Dilly, but he calls me and he's like, "Hey, I don't know if you heard what happened, but we don't have a coach for the last 3 weeks of our season." And I'm wondering if you'd be able to
help
out or
911 help.
give some direction to whoever we get to take over. And I was in Arizona, there was this thing called Red for Ed, where there was no school for like a few weeks, I feel like, where all the teachers were I think they might have been on strike or something. I don't know. It was a really weird deal, but there's no school. Students weren't in school. So during that time, we would practice with Higley during the day, and then, or like in the morning, and then I would go back to MCC practice in the afternoon. So I had Higley for the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season. And it kind of, the previous coach was good, but there's a lot of dysfunction, I guess, like between like training groups and what they were doing at practice and favoritism and all this other stuff. And you kind of walk into it with 3 weeks before a state championship is about to happen. And you're like, hey, let's try to like corral this group. And we've got really great athletes and, great coaching. So Coach Fentress and I, we kind of worked together and put some kids in some different events and had a really, really good last month or so. And then so that happens. We go to state. I think our boys were tied for 6th. They're tied for 7th in the state, which isn't a lot to write home about. But considering everything they had gone through the last, month to 3 months, it's like, hey, you guys, figured everything out in the last month. And that was really great. And, you're so proud of them. And I remember, so I end up leaving MCC, and I remember the cross country coach at Higley. This is where the distance part comes in, where I started coaching cross, but the distance coach at Higley decided to step down or retire. Or I think his son was getting into high school, playing high school baseball. So he wanted to be able to go to baseball games and not deal with anything else. So I remember Mr. Dilly asking me about whether or not I wanted to come back and coach or not. And, I told him, I said, hey, I'd love to come back, but if I'm coming back, I want the cross country job and the track and field job. And he said, so he's like, this is at the end of the year, right around graduation. I believe he told me like, hey, like we'll talk in a couple days, go through that process, get hired on as the cross country coach and the track coach. And that's kind of where both worlds kind of collided, of this sprint coach who is now coaching cross country, who doesn't know a ton and trying to figure things out on the fly.
What was your interest in coaching the cross country team?
It was more of being, I'm a bit of a control freak when it comes to coaching. I think people who work with me would agree. It's just, I wanted to, the two programs didn't work well together when I was there the first time. And that was kind of the bigger issue of the two programs needed to be married or we were never going to be successful. That was kind of my outlook on it. And so when I took over as the cross country coach, the girls head coach, Coach Fentress, who had previously coached cross country with another coach who took another teaching job at another school. But I took over the boys cross country program. She took over the girls cross country program. And things worked out great. And the two coaches previously had left and we took over, but it was more of, if the teams didn't work together in cohesion and, we're never going to grow one program if the other coaches aren't involved and all that stuff. So it's more about like wanting to be the director of, track and field and cross country, as opposed to just like being the coach of one and supporting the other. Like I wanted to have my hands in both. And I thought that was the way for us to be most successful. And it turns out that it was. So
where does your self-described control freak when it comes to coaching, where does that come from?
I have no idea. I think it's just, I have a very particular way that I want things done. And I learned that as I went through coaching, like, hey, I want things done this way, at this time. And,
it
was
weren't like that on day one coaching.
So no, I think it was just it definitely progressed, but well, I mean, maybe I was that way on day one. I mean, I was saying earlier that if I had all that control that I wanted when I first started, I wouldn't have been there. And
maybe you were that, but you didn't exhibit it because there were a little bit, you still were, it's day one. I can't tell these guys to go do X, Y, and Z. I don't have that control.
Yeah. Right. I think it was, I think that might be part of it, but also I know that I'm very particular and I know that what I believe, confidence is everything, but I knew that what I believe in it works and, or it worked, I guess. I don't however you want to describe it, but I know that if I think the coaches that I had too, I really wish I had an answer for you. I mean, I think it's just that if you believe in something, you have to believe in it fully or it's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And if the ship was going to go down burning and I was the reason, I was fine taking that blame.
Mm-hmm.
But it was just, I just like things done a certain way, I guess.
Yeah.
I wish I had a better answer for you.
Well, and you've had a lot of success. It's interesting. I typically push back when someone says, we finished 6th or 7th, and that wasn't anything to write home about. And I'm like, bro, you know how many teams would have died to be
Right.
6th or 7th? Come on now. But you've had a lot of success in your coaching. How much, like, if you were to put like a percentage of that, was because you were a control freak? Air quotes there.
It'd probably have to be a lot, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've worked with a lot of great coaches too. So I don't want to take all the credit, but I know that it's when you have so many moving parts, if there's no structure, like that's kind of where, when you have a team of 40 kids, if you're just letting kids come in and out of practice and skip reps and skip workouts, and if there's no direction for these kids when you have that many, it's not going to work. And I think that that's kind of, I had so many coaches in so many years when I was in high school, and then I get to MCC where I have the same coaches for 2 years. And you see just kind of with Coach Jacobs, I mean, he was there for almost 40 years. So when he's there and he's in charge, I mean, they were just a factory of, of junior college athletes that were sending kids to Division I schools, Division II schools, to the Olympics and all that stuff. And I think that the structure part of it is something that maybe the like at Higley that was kind of missing. I'm not speaking down on what was happening, but there's just so many moving parts. And I think that when you get to that point, and if everyone is working together and there's just one, if you can, I know for me, like it was kind of like, hey, if I'm at the top of the coaching pyramid, I need to do whatever I can to make my assistants' lives easier. And if I'm in control of everything else, where you guys don't have to make those decisions, I'm just making the decisions and you guys are just coaching your events. And if that's going to be the best way for us to be successful, then that's great. But there's just a lot of, I mean, you know how this is, but when you've got a team of 120 kids, I mean, it's not, you need to lessen the voices and, and support your assistant coaches to empower them, right. To be able to run their own groups and, work together as a team. And if the coaches can work as a team, then so can the kids, and they kind of see all that stuff and it works out for everyone.
When's a time that being a control freak ever kind of bit you in the butt?
Oh man, where do I start?
We just added another hour to the show, boys and girls.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think that every road runs its course, or whatever that saying is. But I mean, it's more of just not biting me in the butt, but I mean, and I learned this as I went on, but like, you just can't go about it that way, because it just rubs a lot of people the wrong way, and you burn a lot of relationships because you're just so not demanding, but I mean, you're demanding and more than you need to be. And, and you think you're doing, stuff right. And, not that you're doing anything wrong, but you think that you're making lives easier for other people. And, and it's not that you're not making lives easier, but it just kind of gets in the way of, hey, it's of the relationships you're having with your coaches because of, everything going on, and how much you're expecting of them and of yourself. And and that part kind of gets cloudy at times. But I mean, that would be probably the best example of it, is just being too demanding and all that other stuff. Because you just get your eyes on like, hey, we're like right there. We need to, we're right there to winning a team title. We're right there to having the state champion athlete, or we're right there to, breaking these records at our school. And, that part is, it's challenging to see in the moment, because you think that you're doing everything right by the kids and by your staff and all that stuff. And, it does make it difficult. But, one specific moment, I don't think I have one, honestly.
Yeah, that's fair. Okay. So what happens after Higley?
So I was at Higley for a while. You know, we had a lot of success. We had a lot of great kids, and you know, we were getting to a point where I knew I was getting close to leaving. So I knew my son was never going to go to Higley High School, just because of where he grew up playing basketball was down the road and wanting to play with his friends. And so I knew that with the open enrollment thing here in Arizona, kids can go wherever they
Yeah, it's
want. And
crazy. Yeah.
my son was always, yeah, it really is. And it's hurting a lot of schools, and schools are shutting down because that's a whole other conversation though. But I knew that my son was going to go to another high school. So I knew that eventually that was going to be my path, was to also leave. And so I ended up at Gilbert High School, which is not too far down the road, but ended up at Gilbert, took over for Mark Sullivan, great guy. He was at Gilbert for about 20 years. He was getting ready to retire. Funny enough, my last year at Higley, they knew that he was getting knee replacement surgery, and we were at Gilbert High School for my son's basketball practice, and their athletic director was in the gym, and my son's basketball coach introduced the two of us, and he was like telling me about Mark's situation. Like, yeah, I knew about that. And, you know, we were kind of talking. He was like, what would be your interest level in coming over to Gilbert right now? And I was like, this is like right around Thanksgiving. We have fall break here, which is in October, and it's 2 weeks off of school in the fall because we start school like in middle to end of July.
Oh, wow.
So during fall break, yeah.
What are y'all doing in
we
Arizona? Man, that's crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy. So we were
that
so I
110-degree heat is causing y'all to make some decisions here now. Come on. That's crazy, dude. July, 2-week break.
Yeah.
You can go to any school. This is nutsos, man. All right, keep going.
It's the Wild West. But I was talking with the athletic director, and he was kind of asking my interest of, you know, how, if I'd want to come over that year. And I was like, man, I don't know. And I remember thinking about it and talking with my son's basketball coach about it, and thinking like, man, I would love to, but I just don't know that the timing's right. Like, I've got a great group. I don't just want to leave them high and dry. So I remember finishing out the year at Higley, resigning at the end of the year. And I remember the first phone call I made was to my son's basketball coach. It was like, hey, I'm no longer here. You know, I'd love to, he's like, I don't know what I'm doing next year. And he was like, well, I'm calling my athletic director right now. You're going to talk to him and you're going to come over here. And I was like, okay, like we'll see. So I was like, he has to like me too. This isn't your decision.
Yeah,
this
right.
Is your boss.
You ain't the AD, right?
Yeah, right. So anyway, I think he calls me like the next day or the beginning of the next week, and he's like, hey, you know, we'd love to have you here. I've heard great things about you. Mark he's officially retired as the coach. He's going to teach one more year, but he's done coaching here. So I interview with him, with Mr. Fakiti, great guy. I owe a lot to him. And I remember, this is not a funny story, but it's a funny story. So I'd gone all summer without like officially applying. But he knew that I was friends with some of the other coaches on campus already. So my good friend, who was the basketball coach, kept telling me, he's like, hey, like, the athletic director's getting mad at me because you're not officially applying. So I need you to apply and get your application so they can officially hire you. So I get officially hired, and it's around July. I think I was just coming back into town. There's a pre-sports, like, back to school meeting, and you know, I was there for the track and field program and our cross, and kind of back to the Higley thing where both programs needed to work together. And I had known the coaches because they were just right down the road, and we all kind of compete in the same meets. So you see everyone all the same weekends. But we, so we go to the meeting, and I meet with the cross country coaches, like, hey, I'm taking over now. And I had known there was some ruffling of the feathers between the two programs previously. So I met with the cross country. I was like, hey, like, I'm here. I took over for Mark. He says he's going to help still, which is great. I'm happy that he's going to be here because I'd be lost without him. But if you guys need anything from me, like, let me know. And there wasn't a ton of involvement between track and cross country. So you're like, okay, yeah, like, let me know, whatever. You're like, we'd love to have your help. And then I kind of heard nothing from them for a few months. And I told Mr. Fakidi, our athletic director, I said, hey, like because he asked, he was like, are you planning on helping with cross country at all? I said, I met with the two coaches. I told them if they needed anything to let me know, like I'd love to help out. Like I don't need to be paid for it, but if the two programs don't work together, like we're not going to be successful. And unfortunately, those two coaches had some stuff come up and didn't end up coaching that cross country season at all. And so I remember Coach Fakidi calling me one day. I was like, hey, I was wondering if you're still interested in helping with cross country. And I just thought they needed help for, for some period of time or whatever. I was like, yeah, sure. He was like, yeah, could you stop by the school today? So I ended up going by the school, talking with him, and he's like, yeah, you're our new cross country coach. I was like, what? Like, that's not, I left Higley because I was coaching too much to come to Gilbert, just to find out I'm coaching the same amount that I was coaching before. It's like, I thought this transition was going to be a little smoother, but here we are. So I did cross country and track at Gilbert for 2 years. And it was a different experience. It was a good experience. You try to take everything that you can from each experience and to make, future experiences better. So it's, it was really funny. Interesting how that all worked out.
Because you have the open enrollment, like, do kids from Higley transfer to Gilbert?
That's possible. That does happen. In the track world, it's not as common, but I mean, there's kids from, funny enough, there's a kid from the junior high that was supposed to go to Higley that ended up coming to Gilbert for a different sport. But yeah, that's all really common here because you can go wherever you want. Like my son is going to go to a high school where, he's not in the district right now. But it's, Mr. Dilly at Higley explained this to me the best. And there's a lot of people that don't agree with him or agree with it. But if you're a parent or an athlete, it makes sense. If kids can choose schools for academic reasons, why can't they choose them for athletic reasons? And it's like, that makes a ton of sense. If you're trying to give your kid the best opportunity to do X, Y, or Z, then give them that best opportunity. I don't understand why, there's families here with kids at multiple different schools because they have better this or that than the school that they would be going to originally. So.
I'm probably more on that line because, like, when people talk about all the transfer portal stuff in the college, I'm like, who cares? I'm like, no one cares about the chemistry student who transfers. No one cares about the math,
right? Yeah,
the math.
That's exactly what he
major. Now, I also understand that the math professor doesn't get fired because he doesn't have 10 4.0s on his roster because they transferred to MIT or whatever. So I have a lot of empathy for coaches in that respect for all sports, not just track here, but for all sports. But that also makes me, part of my belief is I don't think coaches should be fired based on how good or bad their team is as well. To a degree. I mean, obviously it is sports, so there's winning, but I don't think like who was the LSU football coach just fired? And I know they didn't have a good season, but like, really, should he have been fired for his record? Like, they were still good. Like, what, that seems kind of crazy, but anyway, but that's interesting. Okay. So it's interesting. You mentioned your son. You mentioned a previous cross country coach who wanted to step away from coaching because his son was getting ready to go to high school and was a baseball player. That's a lot of games and things like that. Where are you today with coaching and fatherhood and all that kind of good stuff?
So after my 2 years at Gilbert, so I'm no longer coaching, which is fine. I'm happy with where I'm at and all that stuff. But the story of that is after our season had ended, I remember I was heading to my best friend's wedding, and I was sitting in the gate at the airport, like contemplating on kind of my plan going forward. And I remember I emailed my athletic director. It's like, hey, I'm kind of thinking that, I'm going to step away from coaching. It's not what it was anymore. It's not what it was, what it used to be. I think that, and I've had this conversation, I put this on Twitter and social media when I made this decision, but I think COVID changed a lot of things about how schools and coaching kind of works now. And I remember telling him, I was like, hey, I don't think that this is for me anymore. It's getting harder and harder. And, you try to hold kids accountable and do what you think is right. And everyone kind of has their own opinions of he's being too mean to the kids or this or that. And if that was what it was, that was never obviously the intent, but hey, I was coached to be held accountable, to, come to practice, work hard, be a great teammate, try to come here and set yourself up for, the rest of your life. Does that mean you're going to be running Olympics? No, but if you can learn something about how you're going to go about the rest of your life from coming to practice every day, being with people, coming to, trying to get all these people to, to accomplish a common goal, like that is the ultimate goal, right? So I remember emailing him and telling him that, I'm thinking about stepping away while I was at the gate about to board an airplane. And I remember I was like, I'll talk to you when I'm back or I'll talk to you when I get back to town. I was gone for 4 days. I let that email sit, or I sent it to him, and I didn't talk to my athletic director, and we ended up talking. I didn't talk to him for about 4 weeks because I wanted to make sure that I knew that I was making the right decision. And
you sent the email, but then wanted
the email
to make sure, like, was that the right email to send?
Yeah.
Maybe do that in a different order, but okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So anyway, we ended up talking after I sent the email, and he was like, just take your time. I don't want you to make a decision you don't want to make, or, and we both saw eye to eye on that. And I remember I was getting ready to go out of town. I went into the school to go talk to him, and he was out of town for visiting his family. And then I was talking with our athletic secretary, and she was like, I heard about, that you're thinking about stepping away and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I think I'm ready. I was here to turn my keys in, but, he's not here. So we'll come back whenever he is. And so this was like a week later. He's like, oh, he's coming back on like the 13th. And I was like, perfect. I'm going out of town the 14th. So I ended up showing up to him, and we were talking, and just someone's like, for a lot of coaches, as good as I know for me specifically, but as much time as you think you're making for your kids, you're just not. I mean, I wasn't missing.
When you say your kids, because we call our athletes our kids, are you talking about your athletes? Your biological.
My own son.
Okay.
Yes,
all right.
My biological child. Yes. Mm-hmm. Like you plan all your, I know for me selfishly, like, and it was a joke with me and my friends within the state that also coach, but like a lot of them hosted meets on Saturdays, and I would tell them, like, we don't do Saturdays. My son has basketball. We don't do Saturdays. And, you try to arrange your practice schedule the same way, as like, hey, we need to be done by this time because I need to get home, get my son, get to practice, and all this other stuff. And you don't realize it in the moment because you think you're making enough time, but like, I was spending all my time with my son in the car. Like, we're not, we're not sitting down at the dinner table. We're not watching basketball games. We're not going to the movies and doing other fun stuff, because that time's being taken up by track meets and practices and, all this other stuff. So, you try to arrange your schedule to make it work and to get to basketball games and soccer games and all this stuff. And, you miss one or two and you're like, oh, I only missed one. But then you look back and it's like, well, shoot, that's one less game I'll get to see for the rest of, his career. So that was kind of part of it. And, I knew that once he got to high school, I don't know that I wanted to be coaching anymore. Kind of the original plan of when I went to Gilbert was to be coaching there while he was there. Mm-hmm. But I mean, those seasons are so long. And I mean, the way we did things at Higley, like we were training 46 weeks out of the year. And it's like, that takes a lot of time, and it's very time consuming. And, when he's about to start the most important, journey of his life of being a high school student, a high school athlete, of his, he wants to chase dreams of going on to play college sports. And, for me to, I guess, step away was the right decision. I don't think I made the wrong one, but it's just, you lose sight of kind of, what you're doing and how much free time you have and who you're spending it with all the time, and when you're just getting the short end of the stick with, some of the people in the sports and parents and the scheduling and all that stuff, it makes it tough. And you kind of just sit back and like, is it worth it? And it's like, if I'm missing time on, the person who I love the most for something that, a lot of coaches are taken for granted because parents just think, and schools and other, that coaches are just supposed to be there. It's
Right.
that's kind of, the not the unfortunate part, but that's just kind of how it's looked over. I
Yeah.
saw something on social media the other day, but it's like coaches were once looked at as teachers and doctors and lawyers and these people who are like making differences in young people's lives. And I think now it's more of just like if you're not getting my child to the next level, or
Mhm.
if he's not getting the same opportunity that, that so-and-so is getting, then like, hey, we're going to tell some people about it. And, whether or not that's the right way or the wrong way to go about it,
Yeah.
it's just changed a lot. And,
Yeah. I
when I
wonder.
made that decision to step away,
Yeah. I
that was
wonder.
kind of part of it.
I wonder about that. I think having a child changes your perspective on that a lot as well, which
Oh, for
that
sure.
changes your perspective on a lot of things, right? You think about what you thought was important back in the day, and then you had your son. It was like, oh, that stuff don't matter. This
Yeah,
matters, so
absolutely.
definitely
Yeah.
changes. What so I understand, and I think when people say I sit in a very unique position for people who choose to be coaches today, right? So I used to coach. I was a 10-year coach,
Yeah.
coach high school, college, SEC, all that kind of stuff. And now, my life and passion is centered around being an advocate for track and field coaches, which means sometimes
Yeah.
you got to have difficult coaches with the people who choose to be difficult conversations with the people who choose to be track coaches because you're in it, and I'm not. So I get to
Yeah.
see things in a different perspective. So on one hand, when people say, coaching's not, it's different today than it is yesterday, blah, blah. Well, certainly that's true. Just, coaching in 2026 is definitely different than it was in 2016. Just like coaching in 1986 was different than coaching in 1936, by the way.
Right.
So that definitely happened. There's life. Life is different today than it was in
Yeah.
2016, right? So that all kind of makes sense on things. And then, I think about coaches who are 60, 70, 80 years old right now, still coaching. I'm like, well, man, they made it through and
Yeah.
they're doing fine. They got some priorities going there. The aspect that interests me the most, not is how different coaching is or is not today. It's more about the family aspect because I do think that's important in regards to it's not an uncommon statement for a coach to say, "Oh, I coach other people's kids, or I see other people's kids more than I see my own." Right? And
Right.
and you have some memories yourself of being an athlete, and I didn't hear you say either your mom or dad was a coach for you, so they were I'm gonna say typically home when
Mhm.
you got home, not knowing the whole family
Right.
situation, but you'd have dinner with maybe one or both, or some aspect, and you got to talk about how practice sucked today, and uh,
Yeah.
Johnny dropped the baton when we were doing exchange, stories, just,
Right. Yeah.
and it might have been hard as a dad of a 15-year-old. I get this now for sure. It might have been hard for you as a 15, 16-year-old kid to see what a special time that was. Your parents hopefully understood that.
Right.
Uh, but now as an adult and definitely as a father, it's like, man, I look back fondly when I got to tell my parents about X, Y, and Z, and they got to
Yeah.
partake, and they were there, by the way, not at practice, coaching other kids my age. By the way, what the frick? Why
Right.
am I not important? So there's a lot of being a parent and being a coach can have a lot of interesting aspects to it, and probably makes it not necessarily harder. I mean, probably is harder, I guess, than if you were just not just, but if you were a single, no children, but definitely makes it like you have to be more intentional with
Yeah.
something. I mean,
Yeah,
certainly
for sure.
plenty of coaches are great fathers and mothers. And coach, they coach full time and all that kind of stuff. It's interesting to me though. Coaching is a very passionate thing, right? You've expressed a
Absolutely.
lot
Yeah.
of passion, a lot of, working with kids. I love that story about that miler that, excuse me, dropped down to your quarter miler group to,
Yeah.
excuse me, to train. That's so cool. Love that. That's passion. That's, you could have easily said, bro, stay with the, I know you don't like doing the miles, but guess what? This is a hard sport. You got to be doing the, miles,
Yeah. Get
right?
over it. Yeah.
I love all that. And for you to set that aside for your son, that's a big deal. Like to me, that's a big bravo, honestly, because
Mhm.
something I said before we hit record today, and I've said it before in the podcast, and I truly mean it. I like having. I've done this exercise. Someone did this with me. I like having people like on a piece of paper write down all the roles or titles that you have, right? So for you,
Mhm.
Devin, I know you're a son. I know you're a father. Are
Mhm.
you an only child or did you have siblings?
No, I have siblings. I have
Yeah,
a brother and a
that's right.
sister.
I remember. I
Yeah.
thought I remember you saying, but you're
Yeah.
a brother. You are a neighbor. Someone lives next door to you.
Yeah.
I'm gonna say you were a coach. Coach is a title. Maybe you go to church. Maybe you're a deacon, but maybe you're a church goer. There's a lot of.
Mhm.
I mean, you could probably come up with 20 different titles, right? And
Yeah.
it's interesting to rank those titles, and sometimes it's harder, right? Like how do I rank
Yeah.
fatherhood over being a son? Like those are two very important. I love my parents and I love my child. Like where do you? So maybe you can even group some of those, but it's important to realize what are the more important titles because some of us as
Right.
coaches think that coach, that title, it's a very precious title. You nailed it when
Mhm.
that thing on social media that said we used to be looked at like doctors and clergy and like, oh, you're a coach.
Yeah.
That's reverence, and it does
Yeah.
still even today have reverence.
Yeah.
That's why more coaches are in the news is because that title of coach holds so much
Yeah.
importance, right? Your accountant is
Right.
generally not in the news, right? But your coach
Yeah.
is, right? But
That's
even
what's so funny about it. I mean, I still see my coaches today and still refer to him as coach.
I,
I mean, that's
I was about to say, go back earlier when you mentioned
yes.
former coaches of yours, your face lit up.
Yeah.
Even today, when I think about some of the coaches that I had, I think about one of the more influential coaches I had, Bob Lambert. I'm like, man, thank God that dude was in my life. I am not who I am or where I am today without a Bob Lambert. I bet you could say the same about a
Oh, for
coach.
sure.
Right, exactly, right. So even with that reverence, I still believe, and there's no bigger cheerleader of track and field coaches than me for crying out loud.
That's you.
I still think coach might be your fourth most important title.
Yeah.
Again, father, son, maybe brother, etc. Uh, and sometimes we like to we make poor decisions by thinking that coach is number one for
Yeah.
us in our profession. So I
Yeah.
love
Yeah.
this aspect of stepping away from coaching to spend more time and be more influential in your son's life. Hey, guess what? Yeah, when he graduates in whatever many years, even if he goes to college and you
Yeah.
want to be heavily involved there, in 10 years from now, Devin, you can still go coach track and field, but you are
Exactly.
not going to be able to replace this high school time for him ever,
Right.
ever.
Every time he plays basketball now, it's one less game that he's going to be playing for
You
the
are in
rest
a
of his life. And
finite
that's
schedule. We don't know what
yeah.
is that 1,000 games
Right.
or 500 games, but you're right.
Right.
Everyone is tick
Yeah.
it off. I can't go back. I miss it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I
Yeah. And
love that.
that's
Well, is this as we stare 2026 season in the face? It's here. Is this going to be your first season not coaching, or 25 or 24? Where are we at on that?
this is going to be I just finished my first cross country season of not coaching. So no, there was no 5 a.m. practices last fall.
Yeah, yeah, isn't that good?
And then this will be my first spring not coaching,
So
which
you
is
coach track in 2025.
yes, I coached last spring. Yes,
Okay, when
2025.
when we're recording this, it's February. You might be listening to this in March or April, or because podcasts live forever, you might be listening to this in 2020 or 2036 for all I know.
I'll be sure to boost the numbers for you.
Yeah, thanks. I'll need a lot of listeners in 2036, that's for sure. You are, and it's February, so boy, Arizona track is if you haven't had a
We're
track meet yet, you're really,
they're a
really
couple weeks
close.
away. Yeah, from first day of practice.
I'm going to ask this to you as if you were a meth addict. I'm rewatching Breaking Bad. My wife and I, we love that show. It's our third
Okay,
time.
love it. Yeah.
I'm going to ask this as if you were a meth addict and you're in recovery, meaning if someone would have put meth in front of you, put that blue meth of
I love
Breaking
it.
Bad, you would be a little, oh, I'm strong. I don't
Yeah.
need it. Push it away. Or you would break down and do whatever you do with meth or whatever.
Yeah.
How are you handling track season is right there in front of you. You've probably got someone that called or emailed you and said, hey, would you help my daughter out? Hey, I'm struggling with the, I haven't coached in 20 plus years. And I literally, no joke. I can show it to you. Former athlete of mine, decathlete at Mississippi State, texted me videos of his son saying, hey, first time doing hurdles practice. What do you think? And I'm like, brother, I haven't coached in 20 years. They say, I've forgotten more about
Yeah.
coaching than yeah, I have because it's been 20. I know nothing
Yeah.
anymore. I don't know how to coach. I
Right.
love that, by the way. One of my favorite people in the whole world. Love that he trusts me. but I haven't coached in 20 years, so it's easy for me to go, bro, I don't know, ask your local coach. But
Yeah.
it's like, bro, this is fresh.
This is fresh. Yeah.
You've got your day 100 coin if we keep on with that,
Yeah.
but how are you handling that today, my friend?
I'm doing great. I remember when I first stepped down, I told one of my son's friends' dad, so I was one of my friends, but I was like, "Hey, I stepped down." He's like, "Good for you. I know it's been, a long career, I guess, of doing that and how time consuming it is." Because his daughter went to a school of one of my friends who coaches there, and she ran for him, and so we were talking, and then I saw him at a game a couple weeks ago, and he said, "I know the season's around the corner. Are you coaching anywhere?" I was like, "No, I'm not. I'm not doing anything." I do have, I did, this recently came up. I do have an agreement to help one of my friends with 4x1 exchanges to stay at his Airbnb in Ohio. Shout out David. But I told him I would help him out, and he's helping me out with a discount on his Airbnb. So it all works out. No, I'm doing great. In the fall, I worked Nike Desert Twilight with that school that hosts that. Good friends. They're also the crew that hosts NXR Southwest. So I still try to be involved and around. I still get to see my buddies who do coach. And so I did that in the fall. During the spring, I'm going to help it. One of my friends, the school that my friend's daughter went to, they host a couple meets a year that are pretty big. I saw him at NXR and Twilight, and he said, if you want to help out in the spring, let me know. We'd love to have your help. Love to have you around. We'll feed you in the coach's hospitality room, which is never a bad deal.
Yeah, true.
So, I'll still be around, and I still love the sport. I mean, I'm doing great.
You're
not
doing the blue meth, but you're doing a little bit of weed. They call that a gateway drug, right? That's what I used to say. You're like,
yeah,
I'm just helping
we're
out.
smoking cigs. We're not doing hard drugs.
I'm not doing that. I'm not coaching. I'm just helping, just showing
I'm
up.
just around. I'm watching meets. I'm doing that stuff. I'm doing the fun stuff, not the hard stuff.
Something tells me we're gonna have an update in some
No,
years.
we're not.
Oh yeah, we're not.
Not
I'm not gonna relapse. No,
there's no update.
no.
I'm not. Hey, my son's enrolled in high school in 3 months. There's going to be no update to me coaching. I promise that for sure.
I don't think, and maybe I'm doing a disjustice to the profession, I've ever used such a long and hardcore drug analogy for this. So let's.
Hey, that's one of the greatest shows of all time.
It is, bro. Like I said, it's our third. It's our third. Some people binge for the second time. That makes sense. This is our third one, bro. And we took a long enough time that we don't remember a lot of the specifics. It's amazing. Yeah. It's awesome. Okay, so let's stay on the topic, but let's maybe get rid of the meth here. You just finished or are finishing up basketball season. Did you get to watch more basketball games of your son this season than ever?
I feel like I did.
Yeah, good for you.
I mean, it's not even, it wasn't the basketball game part. It's the time part of it. It's not the racing from game to meet or meet to game. And it's, being able to see him to and from practice and to and from games.
To be present.
Right. Yeah. I don't have my mind going in a bunch of different directions.
Right. Junior, that makes sense. That makes sense. What the heck what 4x4 lineup am I going to run this weekend? I got, you had an assist. That's amazing. I love that. What do I need to do for this entries for this meet? Yeah. Being present.
I remember, I mean, there were so many times when, I'm starting the day to meet, I'm leaving to go to a basketball game, coming back to that meet, there all night, maybe going back or, the next day. And it's just, it's all over the place. And, there's so many, opportunities for these young kids and kids in high school too, to compete. And you're trying to do best by your athletes and do best by your own kids. And, I can't tell you how many, I'd say I'm not missing games is never great, but I don't think I missed a ton in the coaching time, but trying to make sure that it's, and like you said, it's, you're spending more time with your athletes and your own kids and trying to make your athletes feel like they are your kids, like you do love and care about them and want them to be successful, which you do. And, you want to be there for them. And thank God my son has a good head on his shoulders and understood that, dad coaches a lot of different kids and helping them get to, reach their goals and their potential. That's part of my job. And trying not to miss out on his stuff while doing the other stuff. But now it's like you said, it's being present. It's being able
Yeah.
to not worry about practice plans or bus schedules or paperwork and all that stuff. And,
Yeah.
getting, getting text messages and phone calls at dinner time when we're trying to, get
Yeah.
ready for the next day. And it's that stuff. It's what people don't understand is, coaching's not just a 3 to 5. It's
Right.
not a during the school day in
Right.
practice or the meet day. It's all day. I mean, you're coaching all the time. It's hard to shut it off.
Yeah.
You're always thinking about it. People, you try to stay available for people in the program that need to talk to you, whether that's coaches, parents, kids,
Right.
whatever that is. But it's tough, and to be able to set that aside and be present and not have to worry about that little stuff. It's made all the difference. And
Yeah.
it's as fun as it is, it's also incredibly stressful.
Yeah. Sure.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's if you're able to find that happiness or release valve or whatever that is um to step away and give yourself some time. I mean, I would encourage everyone to do that, because it's made all the difference for me. I'll tell you that.
All right, Devin. So last question, and I want you to take a beat before you answer this. Any regrets, my friend?
Any regrets? I don't think regret is the right word. I mean, I know that everyone's kind of had some relationships that went with other coaches or people, or that didn't always go as planned or the way you wish they did. But I mean, I think everyone's got those. I mean, I've got a few, but I mean, as far as coaching goes and all that stuff, I don't think so. I really enjoyed my time doing it. There's no saying that I won't be doing it again in 10 years, but I enjoyed my time doing it. I love doing it. It was a great time. There's some, I think everyone has relationships that they, wish that they
Yeah, you look back
handled
on.
better,
Yeah.
or look back on as, man, we could have done something special if this went
Mm-hmm.
differently, or
Mm-hmm.
other stuff. But I think that for the most part, I'm very happy with what I've done, what I've
Yeah,
accomplished, the
you
kids that
should
I've
be.
coached, the coaches I worked with, all that stuff. And you know uh, I can't complain, honestly. I
Yeah.
had a great time doing it, and I was able to work with a lot of great people. um
One of
so
my
I can't think of any off the top of my head.
one of my favorite quotes is from one of my favorite artists. You're gonna laugh, Devin. You're younger than I am, so you might not even know who this person is. Do you know who Vanilla Ice is?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm not that young.
Yeah.
I'm younger than you, but not that
Yeah.
young.
Well, thanks for throwing that in there, by the way. My friend Vanilla Ice has a statement says, we are who we are because of who we've been." And,
Hmm.
I take that to mean, a statement that I've made here on the podcast. I truly believe, as I get older, I'm turning 50 this year, Devin, so I'm older. As I'm getting older, I realize that, where I believe everybody is where they are supposed to be right now. Now, that doesn't mean that it's a great spot or it's your
Right.
permanent spot. But relationships that you've had, that we've had, that went south, went sour, relationships that went positive, it's easy for us to look back. I've used that analogy of the forks in the road. It's easy to look back and be like, I know I went this way, but man, if I'd have went this way, I would have all these riches and my career, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
We forget that the negative could also happen. That,
Yeah.
oh, if I'd have stayed with this person instead of whatever, blah, 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 well, you could be dead, honestly. Or you could be in a miserable career because you're locked in, blah, 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 these kind of things. So we forget about that. So I think, your experiences that you've had up until today is exactly what should have been. And thank God
Yeah.
they did happen, because they molded you and made you who you are today. And that has that has been part of the positive impact that you've made on young people, my friend. I think
Right.
you should sit back and look at what you did in a relatively short career. Let's be honest here. You are young, but you've had a really big impact on young people around, just like Coach at Buchanan had on you. You've had that
Yeah.
impact on other athletes and other coaches, I imagine, as well. And what's awesome is, because you are at such a young age and stage compared to me, uh, I tend to a lot of times when I get coaches around your age and experience, if we were to think about it as a 400-meter race, you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
We tend to think like, yeah, I'm probably at the 300-meter mark of my life. I've done a lot, et cetera, et cetera.
Hmm.
Here's the beautiful part, my friend. You are barely, probably just past the 100-meter mark of the 400.
Right.
I know it's easy to think like, oh man, I'm on the downside. Bull crap. Especially with today's technologies we're making with health and stuff. You ain't even halfway through, my friend.
Oh, right. Right.
And I love that's exciting for me to see on the sidelines to see a guy like you and the life that you're building. You're at the very beginning stages of having an unbelievable, fruitful aspect with your own son, your own child here. You've had
Yeah.
a great positive
Yeah.
influence up to this point, but dude, it's about to. I really feel like it's about to explode what you're going to be able to see and enjoy and impart on him. I think it's going to be. I think you're going to look back when you do get to that 300-meter mark and be like, man, thank God I had that time. And I have that time.
Yeah.
I think it's going to make that.
Yeah. I hope so too.
I think so. I don't know. I don't hope. I know so, brother. I really do. So, and I really do appreciate Devin. You know, I think. I don't know. It's hard. I'm getting old, so my memory is
Yeah.
slipping a little bit. And after doing 350 plus episodes, and maybe I get a little bit of grace of not being able to remember everything about every interview. But I think this might be the first coach we've had that's not coaching currently. And when we reached
That's
out, when we
great.
talked to each other, yeah, you knew you were going to be a first of something, right? Dave? But what I the reason why you and I talked about, well, should we continue on, should we have this interview, and I told you that I think it's important for our coaches, for our people that choose to be track coaches, to see a bunch of different aspects in life, to see this, that maybe, and this sounds crazy coming from the guy who loves track coaches, to say that maybe an avenue for you, listener, who is a coach,
Right.
that maybe you need to stop coaching now. I don't take that lightly because, but again, remember, I
Right.
think coach might be the fourth most important aspect: parenthood, childhood, siblinghood, etc. Your faith should be in there as well
Yeah.
as more important. So, Devin, I'm just so grateful for you to come here and be so open and humble and authentic with your story. I think it's going to help a lot of people, and I'm really grateful for your trust in me and being able to share your story and your journey.
Yeah, absolutely. Real quick, can I tell a quick story about our relationship for everyone
Please, please.
that you probably won't even remember?
Okay, test
Uh,
me, test me.
during COVID. So for everyone who is this Coach Green guy, for those of you that are on Twitter, who were on Twitter a while ago, Higley XCTF, that was us.
Yeah.
The 5 a.m. crew. It was
The
kind of
5
a
a.m. crew. I
joke.
remember that. You had a
No,
cool
yes,
shirt. I remember that.
it was just well, we're getting there. It was just kind of a joke on how seriously everyone else took the coaching running world. And we were kind of like, hey, we're going to have fun with this. Kind of, it is what it is.
Right.
During COVID, we tweeted something about having a t-shirt exchange with schools across the country.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember you started following us and then we started interacting and you're, oh, this is so cool. Whatever. I don't know if you still have it, but I know we sent you a couple t-shirts.
Mm-hmm.
But that was kind of our relationship. And I remember tweeting you at a meet
right.
because we had, I think, a shot put or a javelin or something that didn't make weight. I remember tweeting you at a meet, hey, we need equipment right now. He said, here's one of my reps.
Yeah.
I'm somewhere.
Yep.
Here's one of our reps. Got it done. You got us equipment
Yeah.
and as quick as we could get it. But so I'm not just some guy. I've known Mike for a long time. He's one of the great guys in the sport. And I would, I'm very thankful that I have the relationship with him. And for those of you who don't, he's very easy to reach out to. He's incredibly helpful for those of you coaches who are getting started and all this other stuff. And he's great. No, he knows a lot of people. He can get you in touch with just about anybody. So, I'm very thankful for you and our relationship. And it's been very funny how this has come about because I've known you for so long or known you for so long. But I mean, you've invited me out to the coaches thing in Colorado. I remember when that happened and all that stuff. So, it's just funny that this is kind of the culmination of everying is me ending up on your podcast.
Well, Devin, first of all, appreciate the memories. Thank you so much for that.
Yes.
I love hearing that because, sometimes just like in coaching, we forget to tell. That's why I challenge you to go find the Buchanan coach. We forget to tell the positive. And so,
right.
Hearing that, Devin, that's a highlight of my week, brother. Honestly, I really appreciate you being intentional and telling that story. So thank you for that, my friend. And thanks for being a track coach.
Yeah, no problem.
And thanks for being a dad, bro. As someone who did not grow up with a father, man, and now is breaking that chain for my children. I just think those stories are, again, that's more important than the coaching story,
Yeah.
is the fatherhood story. So again, just so grateful for you and so grateful for really being open and authentic. Let me challenge you with some questions. You did a great job, and truly proud of you, my friend.
Yeah. And then just quickly before we get out of here, I just need to say hi to 3 people. My son,
Please.
I love you. Carter, you're the best. I love you. One of the best 8th graders in the state of Arizona. Stamp that. My nephew AJ, and then my baby brother just had his first son. So nephew baby Booker.
Oh, nice.
We love you guys, and I'm happy that we're able to spend this time together now that I have all this free time to spend.
That's right. Yeah, don't let me hear you sitting on the couch eating bonbons. That's right. You got a lot of free time. You better use it wisely. And I know
That's
you
right.
will, my friend. Devin, thank you so much for being here. Guys and gals, thank you so much for being here. We're on our 7th season, which is just amazing. I don't know that I would ever say that. 350 plus episodes, amazing people from all levels, middle school, high school, all the different colleges, pros, etc., and just continue to want to bring value to you and to really, again, the mission stays the same. We started this to uplift and honor track and field coaches around the country, and we will continue to do that on a daily basis. And I'm so glad we got to finally, I've had him on the list forever. It was all me, finally got him on the show at the right time. Remember, you're at the right place at the right time right now.
That's right.
And that's why we are here today. So thank you so much for being here. Join us next week. We'll do it all over again. Thanks, guys.